stuff like that. Like if you go to Crunch, like say you go to those Hollywood gyms, Fire and all those. You see that the girls get ready an hour before they go to the gym. Makeup,
models and
the hat
vehicles.
with the tail coming out,
They're trying
the
to make
fucking
it
color coordinated. I mean, they go to those gyms to get picked up. And the guys that go there, they go for action. When you go to the Y, it slows down a little bit. There's still a couple women that go in there and get a stab. I see them all the time. They go in there with the little towel, the yoga pants, and then mingling with the trainers and shit. But then you go to other gyms, that's not even happening. It's just certain gyms call for that.
Yeah.
You know?
You also recognize what a person's got going on physically. You see some girl doing one of those things, she got that butt ball machine. You know that one? Like they're sending out pheromones and shit, and they're showing you their shape, you know? They got yoga pants on or shorts. Shorts are risky, especially when you're doing them kind of kicking maneuvers, or there's any sort of opening there, and so you didn't get pushed to the side, and come fucking flying out of the bottom of there. You gotta be careful. It's a dangerous move, but you're seeing them exert, you're seeing them work hard, seeing them show their vitality, you know, and the lift in there. There's always like some dude helping him. Come on, one more. She's not just doing that for him, she's doing that for other guys too. She's like putting out that scent, accelerating the game. The whole competition just ramps up a couple of notches while she's doing squats. Ass out, ridiculous. Squats. Deep. Clink. High fives the guys, walks around, makes eye contact with the audience. See who's checking her out hard.
There was a girl at the Y when I first started going to the one in Hollywood. Spanish girl. Torture. She wouldn't shave her armpits.
Whoa.
And the sweat would drip from her armpit. And here's where it gets better. She would always wear gray sweatpants and she wouldn't wear underwear. So you could see the sweat from her monkey come right through the fucking... So she'd be walking up to you and you'd see the fucking wet thing.
Jesus
right her
Christ.
camel toe. She didn't give a fuck. She was hot and fuck too. She was young, you know. I'm an old man. I wouldn't talk to her, but I'd see her in there talking to the different guys. But she'd be benching and she'd open up her thighs and that little swamp would just be fucking drenched with sweat. It was tremendous. I would look at her and shake my fucking, this girl's, you know, Hollywood, man. That's what happened. Listen, I went to Hollywood yesterday morning. I had to be there at lunchtime. And I'm driving, I'm in a light, and I see a black dude that he was 6 feet, weighed 120 pounds. That skinny, with a Clint Eastwood hat on from Fistful of Dollars and the poncho from Clint Eastwood. And he was standing next to a big fat white dude with a beard like Jesus, with sandals and the Jesus thing. And I said to myself, dog, I'm in Hollywood.
Yeah,
This is it.
That's
This is
it.
it. It's fucking, this is what I'm gonna see, you know?
You see that at the Comedy Store almost any night. Almost any night, you see that one dude dresses like Jesus?
Yeah, he
no
comes-
explanation. One time he came by and he wasn't dressed like Jesus, I was disappointed. I've seen that guy 100 times, at least, dressed like Jesus. And then one time I saw him, he wasn't dressed like Jesus. I was like, what the fuck are you doing here, man? Like, once you commit to that outfit, right? Have you ever seen him without the Jesus outfit? Once, yeah.
He said he walks in there like Jesus, too, with his head down, with the shoulder from the back, and he's fucking...
It's interesting. I mean, he found something. Found his niche. I guess. There used to be a dude, you remember the guy who used to walk up and down the street with a cross on his back? No. He had a bunch of people behind him? Yeah. Yeah, there was a dude who used to walk down the street with a cross. And sometimes people would carry the cross, and sometimes he would, like, strap it on his back. But he would walk down with a bunch of disciples, and they all had Bibles, and they would start like yelling out different quotes from the Bible, and they would tell them to people in the front patio. This is back before the front patio had a bar. Remember, the front patio was basically wasted space until the new administration came along. And when did they open up the bar at the front patio? I don't know how many years ago. It was before I came back, but... Now it's a vibrant little bar.
It was always something. Remember, Corey had it. Mm-hmm. Princess Corey had it. But she opened it just so she could drink. That's it. I mean, she used to open it. She would walk away. People would be like, where's the bartender? You know, it was never really, they would break even every night. It would sell like 9 beers or something. Now it's a fucking bar, like you said.
Do you know they used to do shows there?
Where?
On that back patio. They had a stand-up show there. They would set up a mic out there.
When?
They did it a couple of years ago, apparently. But the neighbors complained. Before we came back, they would have, like, on open mic night, they would have a spill-out show. Where they would have an open mic night out there on the patio. But apparently people were just yelling out, "Cunt!" or something. You know, I mean, they're yelling into a microphone.
That's such a heavy fucking... You know, I was watching Almost Famous the other day. You ever watch Almost Famous?
I love that movie.
Almost Famous was on. I was watching it. And they got to the part where they're at the hotel next door. And actually, you see them crossing the street in the store. The lights are blinking at the store. It's supposed to be 1969.
Right.
What are you gonna do with the store? Fucking put a wood over it?
Right.
But that was the hotel. Like, that was a hot hotel.
When the store went from Ciro's to the store, was it closed down for a while?
I'm not sure.
Because the store was open in the 70s, right? I want to say 74.
I tried to get a blowjob from my babysitter. I was a kid. What was these people will find? I tried to get a blowjob. What was these people? I tried to get a blowjob from my babysitter. My babysitter, I was a kid. She was a Puerto Rican chick named Tita.
We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizen can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals, so that security and liberty may prosper together.
Jesus.
It's an amazing, at the time that was an amazing speech, and it's just prescient.
Yeah.
You know, like it's, because people have to understand, and you know, like before World War II, you know, we weren't a built up and militarized society. We would militarize when we needed to, and it was really Teddy Roosevelt and all those kinds of guys that started kind of like getting a little more, you know, bullish in that kind of regard with the Spanish-American War and the USS Maine, and then, you know, but the fight over World War I was real. You know, we didn't want to get involved. We got involved very late. And people take for granted now that we have this massive military, we have this massive power, but in the 19th century, not that they're, you know, you can't equate them necessarily to the 21st century, we weren't going around running roughshod over people and like doing those kinds of things. We were very isolationist. That was kind of the American tradition. And to hear that come out of Eisenhower's mouth, especially knowing his experiences in the war and his deep knowledge of the military and what was going on in the world, it's one of the great warnings of all time in American history.
And it's very wise on his part because he recognized that there are survival systems that are a part of any industry. You know, I mean, there's survival mechanisms, and the industry wants to stay alive. If all of a sudden there's peace on Earth, this gigantic industry, this multiple billion-dollar-a-year industry, I mean, I don't know how much, it's trillions a year, right? What's the military budget per
It's
year?
$600 billion a year.
$600
Of
billion
new spending.
Of new spending.
So, you know, you have trillions of dollars worth of equipment.
Jesus Christ. So that
Playful
massive
prairie.
amount of money, there's so many people that are involved in that, and so many jobs that have to be preserved, and so much of the industry relies on keeping conflict active. And I think that's what he was trying to warn us about. But it's so interesting about it, an evolved citizenry, and that people need to be aware of it. And to hear that from the president, you're never going to hear anything remotely as even close to as candid as that is today.
No, absolutely not. And I think that even hearing that from, you know, just to reiterate, like hearing that from a Barack Obama, for instance, would be strong, right? But hearing that from a Ulysses S. Grant or a Zachary Taylor or a guy that served, especially at the level he served, is like that meant something to people.
Oh,
and I think that's why that saying never went away, but under our noses it happened. And what he said was going to happen is exactly what happened in the Southeast Asia, in Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos. He called it from a fucking mile away.
Well, it wasn't even a mile away because he was living there. I mean, he was in the heat of it. In 1960, when he made that speech, you think about the Gulf of Tonkin incident. I mean, that's just a few years later. Just a few years later, they had a false flag. that allowed people to get enthusiastic about entering into the Vietnam War, and that's where it all came from.
Right, and it's the same. Some people say the USS Maine in Spanish-American War in 1898 was another false flag, or something that was they let happen, or something that was blown out of proportion. Not,
Right.
Pardon the pun, because it was about the ship blowing up. But yeah, it's one of those. It is a provocation that gets everyone involved, and we had this nemesis. It was good versus evil. We were upset. We saw, I think, especially against the Nazis, we saw what the stature of the good versus evil argument, and we won. So with the Allies, so I think we tried to perpetuate that. Immediately, the Soviets became the evil,
Right.
and then we created our bombs, and then they created their bombs, and then we just had these proxy wars that we were fighting against the Chinese in Korea, and the Soviets in Vietnam. Really, like all these things that were kind of, everyone knew what was going on, but no one. I'm sorry.
Please go.
I was just going to say. So I think that when everything started to get peaceful, what do they call it? Glasnost in the Soviet,
Yeah.
which is like the idea of like a new era, like peace and prosperity with the West or whatever, in like the late 70s, early 80s. I think that the Boeings of the world and the Halliburtons of the world were like, oh shit, and come 90s, pretty peaceful, but we immediately found new targets, and we should be wary of why that happened. I'm not saying that we shouldn't necessarily fight. We have to fight sometimes, but to have this industrialized nature of it, to have this need to lurch from one war to the next war to the next war to the next war, is not what a thriving republic does. It's what a dying empire does.
Well, it's definitely what an empire that's dependent upon the control, or rather an industry that's dependent upon the control that it has currently, maintaining it. You need to maintain that money. You need to maintain the business of making these machines and of having these contracts. I mean, it's a huge industry, and like all of these unlimited growth industries, it's very, like, every business essentially operates under this paradigm of unlimited growth, or most businesses do, most corporations do, where they every year they want to make more money. And if that's applicable to a company that makes tanks, well, every year they want to make more money, they want to make more tanks. We don't need tanks anymore. Well, oh, the fuck you don't. You definitely need tanks. Oh, look what's going on over here in Yemen.
Right.
Oh shit, you need some tanks.
Right, exactly.
And that means Team America World Police. It's really crazy.
It's scary, and it's a scary waste of money too.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that I really do feel like we should have the most powerful military in the world. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
I think you're right.
I think a powerful republic can have those kinds of things, but we don't need all these bases that are legacy bases. Why are we still in Japan? Why are we still in,
In case they talk some shit, or Godzilla shows up. Trump's proposed hike to military spending is bigger than all but 2 countries' entire budgets. Well, that's because we're America, and we're better than everybody else.
Yeah, I want to say
Get that communist shit off my screen.
I want to say, I mean, this is incredible, Joe. I want to say, I think this is right, that if you split the military spending of the world in thirds, we are responsible for a third of it. 10 countries are responsible for another third of it, and then everyone else is responsible for another third of it. We have 4.5% of the world's population. So this is way out of whack with even our needs, like our actual very need to protect ourselves. I think it's just way out of whack.
Right, but when you get past those 10 countries, the other third, and then us, that's 11 countries. Everybody else is using coconuts and catapults.
Yes,
They're
essentially, yeah.
throwing rocks at each other. So,
But there's relative tranquility, like outside of the Middle East and in Eastern Europe with Ukraine and there's general peace to be had in these countries that might not spend a lot of money or might not even have a lot of money to spend. I'm not saying I want to live like they do in. I want to say I want to live like they do in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh or something like that. But I'm saying,
what are
like,
you trying to say, man? What are you, racist?
well, that's already been established by the International Business Times, Jim. But to me, I just look at it. I'm like, we can spend this money wiser, and we can ramp up and have plans to ramp up. People forget, and GM, Ford, all these guys were making our armaments. Mitsubishi made the Japanese Zeros. IBM, offshoots of IBM, were making friggin' punch card machines for the Nazis. People, for better or for worse, ramp up and do what they need to do in times of war to make money. And so we could have a plan in place to say, like, hey, if we need to ramp up, if something bad happens, if we need to go overseas or something, if we have to go engage the Russians because they're rolling into the rest of Ukraine, for instance, we have we can take care of that without having bases all over the world.
Well, the problem with that kind of thinking is, as soon as you say that, then they realize, well, there's a lot of money to be had if that is the case. So let's make that the case. And then there's some weird, fucking covert, sneaky shit going down. And do you have an earring on both ears? Is that what's going on here?
Yeah, sorry.
Are the headphones irritating you?
Oh, no, I just like to hear whenever I do this. No, the earrings have been in since I was like 18. I just never took them out. I'm superstitious, so
You're superstitious?
Yeah, so I don't like to, not like overtly superstitious, but I'm afraid to take them out. I'm afraid to do different things.
Do you have a We the People tattoo on your arm?
Yeah, We the People, and then I have Franklin's Association Snake. On my arm.
So you're like join or die. Wow. So you're like a serious, almost like a fan of politics.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that a way to describe it?
Sure. When I went to college, I went to school for American history, and I graduated. And when I got my job offer in the video game industry, I was about to start my graduate degree at Northeastern in American history because I wanted to be a professor at the time. So my real passion was American history and American politics, but I veered off into a different direction.
That whole thing is because these people, someone said something that someone went. People love to find secrets. They love like this dinosaur thing is cool because it seems to be real. And
Did you see the gal that said that all the fossils were basically people doing like kind of Michelangelo deal and chiseling them out of rock? Because the fossils came out of rock. Oh, and she actually
What?
She has some pretty nice boobs too. But
Does she?
Yeah, yeah.
go to
But
Maybe that's why people are listening. And
But,
she's like, I've got a platform. No, you've got tits.
no, it's really good. I mean,
Yeah?
so she's basically like, okay, so these things come out of rocks. And so these anthropologists, because there's millions of dollars in anthropology or archaeology, they're just chiseling these bones out of rock. And yeah, here we go.
Is that her?
Fossils that are found in the ground. And
What's that?
I'll start a little bit about.
You don't wanna play it?
fossils
Questions against dinosaurs.
Oh, we need to play some of this.
a little bit about the composition and
composition.
what they end up being when everything is said and done. So a fossil is not
I'll
actually
use
a
air
piece
fossil.
of bone.
It's not actually a piece of bone.
Fossil is actually a bone that was once in the ground that has been then filled with limestone, calcium, and other kind of stone-like deposits over the course of many, many years.
What's going on with her left eye? Is that a
And
patch?
At the end of the day, it ends up
Covering
looking
it.
like
I
a
know.
bone.
Glass eye.
Like, why is she doing
It's
that?
really a rock
Glass
inside
eye.
of rock.
Push your fucking hair out of
So
your
you
eyes.
have a rock this big, and you say, okay,
mean, a flock of
inside this rock
seagulls?
this big, there's a bunch of fossils. Here you go.
Okay.
And you hand the rock off to a paleontologist, and the paleontologist takes a little mallet and they chip away at it, and at some point they come out with something looking like a bone. And
This
that's
is a
fossil.
problem. Hold on, this is a problem. Just pause that. The problem is some fucking idiot like this gets to talk about a subject that she's not educated in, and no one is over her shoulder going, that's not true. That's not true. And here's the thing to people that, you know, there's someone out there who buys into a lot of this stupid shit. You must be an expert in something. You know, think about what you do for a living. You know, like think this. Here's a perfect example. Like if someone tried to tell me that, like a lot of these chi touch martial arts guys are too deadly to fight in the UFC, and if they make a video about this, and I'm not there while they're making this video, so I can't talk to them, like, and stop them and pause them and go, nope, that's not true. Nope, that's not correct. Nope, no, here's actually what happens when you get knocked out. No, it is not a fucking chi dispersion or dispersion technique. You're not really interrupting the chakras flow.
Right.
No, it's a fucking concussion, stupid, and we can measure concussions. We know about all the different variables in the blood when you can prove. It was actually, there's some new tests that I wanted to get into as well, where there's an institute now that's checking concussions, and they're checking, they're doing blood tests on people to find out about concussions that they've had in the past and how those concussions have healed. Obviously, I'm deviating from the path, but the point is, I know a lot about martial arts. So if someone wants to do a video about martial arts, well, I am an actual martial arts expert, and I can talk to you about what you're saying that's incorrect.
Right.
I know about the history of it. I know what works and why it works. I know about torque and leverage and all these different variables. But you could make a video without me being there, and you could ramble on, or not even me, any martial arts expert. And you could ramble on, and if someone doesn't know, they watch them, they go, wow, that guy's dropping some truth bombs.
Right.
This is amazing.
You know, I don't know if you saw this, but Matt Thornton, he's the Straight Glass Gym
Yes.
founder, really brilliant guy. And they put together this, I forget who it was, but it's kind of a philosophy department. And they put together this kind of white sheet on using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular as a means of teaching critical thinking to students. Because there's this really testable, verifiable process. Does it work or does it not work? And you can define what working means versus this kind of like, you know, chi, dim, mak, depth, touch type stuff. And so they've actually developed this curriculum around using this physical process of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think also mixed martial arts in general, but specifically Jiu-Jitsu, as a means of teaching critical thinking skills. And I'll noodle on what like kind of like the search terms for it would be, but it's really interesting, and it's something that I think helps pull this stuff together because you've got that kinesthetic element of people being able to feel. Okay, you know, somebody gets mounted on you. Can you get them off? No. Well, look at this 110-pound chick. She can dismount this person because she's using these techniques of leverage and balance and timing and all that stuff. And so then you can throw these things out about, is this a verifiable process? Yes or no? And it is. And so then you start laying the foundation of being able to create a good critical thinking process.
One of the things that I really love about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular is that it seems to be a study in variable absolutes, meaning that there's so many variables involved in like two people engaging with each other. Say if two people are blue belts and they engage with each other and one person dominates that person with superior technique and knowledge and gets the tap over and over again. You could take that same person who dominated that person and then put him in there with a guy like Jacare, and he would just get manhandled.
Right.
And it would look like he knows virtually nothing about jiu-jitsu because one person's the variables, the understanding of all the complexities of the techniques, they have mastered them, and they have also built their body to a much stronger physical unit. So all these are variables, but the absolute is getting the armbar, getting the choke, putting someone to sleep with a choke. Like, those things are absolutes. Like, when you tap out, you know, if you're not just like a person who gets scared really quick and taps out for no reason, which does happen, but you're thinking about someone who has some experience. When you're tapping out, you're essentially saying, you've got me into this absolute position. I'm at the point of death or massive injury, knees tearing apart, arms breaking. So in doing those, you encounter these variable absolutes in a way that is really kind of uncommon in our world, outside of fucking car accidents and someone hitting you over the head with a baseball bat. And you encounter the consequences of actions and movements in a way that sort of makes you really appreciate the overall variables of life and how important it is to take care of your health, how important it is to know what you're talking about. You know, if fighting, I always try to talk about fighting as if it's a language. And if one person has like one word that they yell at you, and they're like really good at going, shut the fuck up, like one expression, like that might work with some people. It's not going to work with someone who's got a really good grasp of the English language. Oh, I should shut the fuck up? And why should I shut the fuck up? Because you would like that? Why would you like that? Because you're too stupid to have a conversation about something you don't know what you're talking about? And that person's like, It's really like drowning, which is the same way you would feel if Damian Maya was on top of you trying to choke you.
Right.
It's a lot like a language. Like, you don't have enough variables to respond to this particular thing. And then there's also the strength factor and all those other factors. I think it teaches you critical thinking in a way that is almost unavailable outside of like war and like real physical trauma. Because the beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu is, although you can get injured, most of it is pretty safe.
Right, compared to boxing or kickboxing, you've got a much more forgivable kind of margin of error on that.
Yeah, much more. And I think the environment that it establishes, that it creates, and the way, that effect that it has on your mind, where it's forcing you into these extreme problem situations and solving those problems, and then understanding, where did that go wrong? What can I do to my body to maybe strengthen myself so that I can stop that from happening? Or maybe understand the position, so 2 steps ahead I recognize that if I go left I run into that, and if I go right I run into this. What I need to do is be patient, use my hips, hip escape, do this, do that. And those variables, and understanding those variables and having that database in your mind, and recognizing that is also, there's analogies that you could make in all sorts of avenues in life where that would be greatly beneficial.
Well, and again, just another hat tip to Matt Thornton. Like, he's just made this point that these alive arts, whether it's wrestling or boxing or Thai boxing, jiu-jitsu, judo, there's kind of an authenticity with that, because you really can't bullshit it. It's kind of
Yeah.
like, can you speak Spanish? Okay, well, let's have a conversation in Spanish. Let's
Right.
read a Spanish newspaper and tell me what was going
Yeah.
on with it. Can you swim? You know, Sam Harris, I think he wrote that piece, you know, jiu-jitsu was like drowning. Like,
Yes.
for a non-swimmer looking at someone treading water, it looks inconsequential, and you throw them in the water and they're going to die.
Yeah.
And so there's a real authenticity there that when you get in and do that, compared to some of the fantasy martial arts where there's an assumption that just going through some sort of paces is going to get you somewhere, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it does, you know. And so there's this whole great feedback loop, and it crushes your ego, and you have to really stay grounded if you're going to maintain through that process. But it has so much value with every other facet of your life. You know, it's fascinating.
Yeah, if you can keep from being injured.
If you, yeah,
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really helps to keep from being injured is, I think it's very critical to strengthen the body. And I think there's a lot of people that don't like to do that. They would just like to train, and I was guilty of that for quite a while until I just mounted up a series of injuries that I almost couldn't deny anymore, particularly back injuries. But strengthening the body and sort of strengthening the overall structure in which you engage in these sort of things, meaning not just like strengthening the body by lifting weights and doing squats, but also by yoga, also by doing really unusual exercises like kettlebell windmills and stuff like that.
Right.
That really puts a very bizarre load on the spine in weird ways, and it really strengthens the core in a substantial manner that allows you to deal with the pressure of certain positions without succumbing to the attempt by your opponent. What year did that thing go extinct?
The terror bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gotta be prehistoric.
Well,
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't think
haven't
it was
seen
prehistoric.
Definitely.
That's one of the main points of evidence that I always use when people talk about Bigfoot. Like, how come you don't believe Bigfoot's real anymore? Like, I don't. It's not that I don't believe it's real, but I have a very hard time believing that hunters haven't seen it.
What if the reason all these cool animals are extinct is because they walked off the edge of the earth?
That's a good point, dude. They
probably
passed the ice wall. There's an ice wall out there. You can't pass it. It's super important. Stay on the side of the ice wall.
There are reports from Uruguay of findings dating to 450,000 and 17,000 years ago. But the claim is debated. So obviously,
Wow.
that's as close. 62 to 1.8 million years ago is the actual normal thought of range.
Even though I don't
Seven,
believe
so
it, I tried to keep an open mind about this flat Earth thing, and I said,
Try to keep an open mind.
well, I kind of wanted to hear the other side's argument just so I could understand. And
You
then
know what I
when you
think it is, man? I think it's just a lack of communication. I think what we need is, like, I know Neil deGrasse Tyson had this conversation with B.O.B., right? That's the rapper's name. We kind of explained it to him. B.O.B. dissed him on a flat Earth support track or something. I don't know. I just think it's just a lack of communication. It's like someone needs to explain to people in a way that doesn't offend their preconceived notions. Because people get this idea that they have the right information about something. They think that something is something. And they get married to that idea. And if you're like Shaq, who just recently came out and said he was married to the idea that the world is flat. It's like, how much research are you doing?
Don't bait
You know, are you?
Do not bait me. I
How
know
much
what you're
how much
doing.
research are the people on the space station doing? Are they all in on a lie? They're all in on a lie? Is that real, or did you decide that that's real, and now you're looking only at things
The objects
that
that
support
you need
that
for this
idea
quest
in your
are
head,
definitely
and you're not looking for
nearby.
it through
Have a good look for
astrophysicists or
high.
astronauts or people that
Low.
study it their whole life who
Look
understand it.
medium.
You're not looking at it through those
They're
lenses. That's
usually
why it
hiding in
seems
plain
like
sight.
it makes sense. It only seems like it makes sense because you don't know what makes sense. How dare you? Am I baiting? I'm not
Well,
even,
you're
folks.
baiting me on the
I
Shaq
think
thing.
we all are just, we're all silly. All of us on both sides.
No.
It's not even just the people that believe the earth is flat.
I've got 3 full passports with stamps.
I
mean,
think I feel for
not-
the people that believe it because I think someone
never-
didn't tell them correctly or something.
Yeah, but I've never did an international flight where I flew for a while and then the plane banked.
and turned
And turned.
around. It doesn't work that way. It's like a black hole. You hit the
Yeah.
wall, the ice wall, and then you go back in time to the moment when you're born.
Is the ice
Live
wall,
your life over and over again.
Is the ice wall real though? Is
Fuck
that,
yes. No one's been there and
Is
take
that true?
pictures of it, but they can't because of the Illuminati and plus the Jews.
no, what?
You can't just go to the ice wall, dude.
Jamie, I'm asking you as a third party. It was a simple question to Joe. So what happens when you get to the edge?
I wish I was an expert.
And he said,
Let's just make shit up.
so, but is there an ice wall, or was that because I actually thought that was part of the argument?
Yes, no, that is part of the
It's
argument.
being guarded by
But
NASA
it's
or something.
but the part of the argument.
Guarded. Wait a minute. This sounds. Are you kidding me? This sounds like the Truman Show, or like Hunger Games.
I don't fault anybody who believes
telling
that.
you
And
right
I think
now.
there's a problem when someone believes something and then someone else doesn't believe what they believe, and then on both sides there's an issue because the side that believes that they're right, the side of the astronomers and the astrophysicists, we get angry. We get angry at people that believe something other than what we are pretty sure to be true. So you start making it into a personal thing, and it's stupid, you know? And I think that's part of the problem is that people get invested in their ideas. You get invested in the idea of Bigfoot. I was fucking 100% over-invested in the idea of Bigfoot. I was super helpful, or hopeful rather, every time I would see a news story about Bigfoot, please let this be the one. I was thinking about it,
Yeah.
man. I was like, if they really found Bigfoot,
I would
how
be happy if
crazy
they
would
did.
that be? Fuck yeah. But then it didn't make sense. Didn't make sense.
No, Sharon actually brought up a very valid point. She said, if there was a Bigfoot, it's like, what's his age limit?
Yeah.
Because he's got to, I mean, by now, that sucker, based on like how long monkeys and stuff live, or a bear or whatever, he's gone. If there
Well,
was one.
The
right?
idea is that there's a population of them. I've talked to several experts. What's up?
Google to see any updates on Bigfoot.
Oh, please. They're excellent. Rob Lowe and his sons are going to hunt Bigfoot for A&E. That'll be a fun show. Rob Lowe's a funny guy. I think that'll be interesting.
But is it,
Look, there,
is he doing it like that he really thinks he's going to find it, or is he doing it as a way like, okay, boys, I'm going to prove to you that this is kind of.
Maybe it's not even preconceived, or maybe it's scripted. The
Well,
infamous
it's a low
unsolved
file.
mysteries. Well, you know who absolutely 100% is balls deep in Bigfoot? Bobcat Goldthwait. Balls
I
deep,
love that
all
podcast.
in.
I love that podcast.
I love him. He's
yeah,
awesome.
he was really cool.
He actually
I grew up
believes.
with him.
He actually believes that that video, you know, that Patterson footage where the things walk
Yeah,
across the field, he
I
thinks
do it
that's
all
real.
the time.
Now, if that Bob Patterson guy had met you, you probably could have taken the place of the other guy that wore the monkey
Seriously,
suit.
if I had as much hair as you did without shaving, other than like up here,
Yeah.
I think I could look like that sucker. Like if he seen me stalking that hog this morning,
Yeah.
he'd be like, "There was a freaking Bigfoot doing yoga."
Well,
And-
there's some dudes that get real hairy, and we gotta assume
Yeah.
that the hairiest dude that we know today ain't shit compared to the hairiest dude of 100 years ago, right?
If you didn't have clothes, you know you'd be growing some hair.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
seriously,
Yeah.
if you were cold, if you had to live or die, you would grow hair. So why would it be any different than a dog that sheds when it's hot
Yeah.
or grows hair when it's cold?
Because we're not animals, John Dudley. We're people.
We came from monkeys.
Don't tell people that. They don't want to believe it. It's a crazy fucking sport, Julie Kedzie.
It is.
Crazy. So,
I want to know you.
Okay.
I want to know about you. Who were you when you first started all this?
who was I?
Yeah, who were you, and are you the same person now? Like, who were you? Like, who was Joe Rogan? Well, it's just like it's something I'm thinking about these heterotopic spaces, and I'm thinking about authenticity. I'm like, here's a person. I was actually just gonna email you these questions. I was like, oh, well, if I come in here, I can plug Invicta, and that would be great because I love plugging Invicta. But also, I've never really sat down and talked to you, and I guess who were you when this started, and who are you now? Like, are you the same person?
Well, I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
I would imagine, if you're constantly thinking about things and constantly growing and trying to reevaluate constantly. Yeah, I was younger. I was just a few years removed from martial arts competition and kickboxing. I was doing some acting and stuff. And
Did you train for
stand
acting?
up.
Did you?
Sorta. I had to take a few acting classes when I got a development deal, but it was because I already had a television show, and so they said, "Hey, you should learn how to act." It was really that. It wasn't that. It was something that I trained for. No, I was doing stand-up and I got a development deal to do a sitcom, and so then all of a sudden I found myself out here, and you know, I was like, when I moved out here, I was like 25, 6, something like that, and I was just trying to figure out what I'm doing. Like, why am I acting? Like, this whole thing is weird, you know. And then a couple years later, I guess it was '97. I was training at Carlson Gracie's place, and Vitor was 19, and he had just beaten John Hess over in Hawaii. I was a white belt over there, and Mario Sperry trained there, and Carlos Bajeto, and Murillo Bustamante. I used to watch those guys train. It was amazing. And this was back when no one knew any of those guys were. You know, it was really, really interesting. It was really interesting to be a part of that original Carlson Gracie gym and watch those guys work out together and watch everything. And so when the UFC needed a post-fight interviewer, they one of the guys who was one of the producers, Campbell McLaren, was friends with my manager, and they just casually mentioned it, and they brought it up to me, and we had a conference call, and I was like, I'll fucking do that. Like, what do you want me to do? And so the next thing you knew, I was flying out to Dothan, Alabama on those little propeller planes. I was interviewing Mark Coleman. I was like, this is crazy. Watching Vitor Belfort's debut. You know, it was a fascinating time. And to catch MMA sort of in its transition from being the spectacle that it once was just 4 years prior to becoming a legitimate sport. Like, Vitor entered the octagon, he had gloves on. You know, Vitor used to fight with shoes on sometimes, and you were still allowed to grab clothes back then. Because I remember this guy I forget who Valid Ismail fought, but he literally was grabbing his underwear and his pants and giving him this like intense wedgie while they were fighting. Like, his cup was snapping, and it was totally legal. Yeah, you didn't have to have gloves. The weight classes were, you know, it was only 2 weight classes, I think, back then. It was real weird. It was weird to be there, and, you know, it was interesting. And I did it for a couple of years, and then it just didn't seem like it was going anywhere. MMA was stagnant. It was removed from cable. You could only get it if you had DirecTV. So I did it for 2 years, and then I quit and went back to doing other stuff and the sitcom I was on and stuff. And then the UFC was purchased by Zuffa. And then I became friends with Dana and went to a few shows. And then next thing you know, he asked me to do commentary. It was one of those weird things where I had zero desire to do it. I just was talking to him. I go, hey man, do you know about this guy? He's fighting over in Japan. Do you know about this guy? This Russian dude? Do you know about this guy? And he'd be like, no, who are these people? He'd write things down and shit. Because I was just balls deep in K1 and Pride and all that. I was always a huge, huge fan. And my friend Brian from Canada would send me VHS tapes of all these Japanese shows. So I was just a massive fan. The Hook and Shoot days, I watched all the Hook and Shoots, all Jeff Osborne shows. And, you know, and then somewhere around, I guess it was 2002 when I was on Fear Factor, they asked me to do commentary, and then I've been doing it ever since. So that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
But, and now, like, do you ever look at your old stuff? Do you ever consider, like, your mind space then? You
mean like the old commentary stuff?
Yeah, or just even think about it. Like,
I mean, I try to do my best every time I do it, but honestly, what my contribution is so, it's I don't want to say it's insignificant, but it's not very important, because what it is just me trying to do the best I can to describe what I see in front of me, to make it as entertaining as I can, but also honor what's happening.
You're a conduit.
Yeah.
You're the person. Yeah, exactly. You're where the flow of information has to come through for the average viewer. Yeah. No, I really admire that about you. I'm not trying to suck up, but your enthusiasm is something I really tried to model myself after. Like, I think that we have, like, I'm nowhere near the level of commentator that you are, but when I hear you get excited about stuff, I'm really happy to hear that, because it makes me think, okay, as somebody who's communicating what's happening in this sphere that so many people know about, but so many people don't really understand, like, what's going on if somebody's clenched up or they're grabbing a bicep here, and why that's important, why the way this fighter is shifting their hips is so important, you know, and it's cool to see that kind of enthusiasm, so that I guess other people can get excited about something without even knowing they're getting excited. Like, their blood pressure comes up a little bit when they're watching, and that's neat. It's neat to see that, because it seems genuine.
It's all 100% genuine. It's the only sport that I really follow. I mean, I don't really even understand football. I don't know what's going on. Like, when the whistle blows, like, what happened? I don't know what happened. And, you know, people make fun of me all the time for that, but I'm like, it's not interesting to me. When kickboxing, boxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and MMA, watching all that takes up plenty of time. I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah,
I just don't. And the consequences just aren't the same. I mean, when I watch a kickboxing match or I watch an MMA fight, the consequences are so extreme that I'm engaged, I'm captivated. And with MMA, you know, when I'm watching it and I'm there live and I'm cage side and I'm watching all this stuff go down, and I'm not just watching, but I'm also analyzing it. So I'm trying to decipher patterns, and I'm data chunking and trying to figure out what could possibly happen. What am I seeing? Am I projecting this, or am I actually seeing this? And just trying to be like as empty about it as I can, but also be so enthusiastic about it. And then there's moments like when Darren Elkins beat Mirsad Bektik. It's just so hard for me not to cry inside the octagon. It was so hard.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah.
When I was interviewing that dude, like I'll start welling up right now. When I was interviewing him after that fight, I was like, that guy just emptied out. I mean, emptied out his whole soul. I mean, he took a fucking beating for 2.5 rounds and didn't give up an inch. There was nothing. There was no quit in him. None. Zero. And then finally in the 3rd round, he catches that guy. And there's this fucking roar that he did after that fight was stopped, where he throws his arm back and he's moving around the cage and screaming. He's covered in blood, like right there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the purest human moments you can ever see, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I have to wipe tears off my eyes right now.
No,
It's hard.
I totally understand that. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing to, I guess, to see your passion for that, to see you are able to witness that, and you're still able to translate that kind of passion to people. Like, that's
Well, if
cool.
it stops being that to me, I'm gonna stop doing it. But that was just the last fight. I mean, not only is it not stopped, there's no, like, when the fights are going on, there's no waning whatsoever in my enthusiasm. It's not, it hasn't dissipated. And people think, like, oh, he's cut a half in now because he doesn't do all the events. Like, that can be further from the truth. I just don't want to travel.
No, and also you're gonna wear yourself down to a certain point where it's just like you're gonna be too sick to actually be able to experience what you need to experience for the viewer to feel what's going on.
It's also, I have too many interests.
Yeah.
I do too many. I like to do too many things. I'm trying to live 5 lives. You know.
I mean, if you have the opportunity to, why not?
Yeah,
But
that's how I feel.
it does wear you thin a little bit. Did you have that kind of passionate connection with comedy? Like when you're doing stand-up and when you're in that kind of engagement, do you feel that flow where you're just almost to the point of emotion and you want to cry or you
No, not like that. That's different because it's life or death. Like that Darren Elkins fight was life or death. It was. It's a different thing. It's not. It's like comedy is fun. It's like joyful. It's silly. It's important in that I know that people come out to see me and they pay money and I want to do my best. It's important that I'm trying to constantly improve. What I do is I dump all my material out every 2 years. So I write a special, I perform it, I get it tight, and then I record it. I put it on whatever, on Netflix or whatever, and then I'm done. And then I have to write a whole new one. And that process is a long and painful process. Like, I did my Netflix special in November. It came out in November, so it's been December, January, February, March. We're 4 months in now, so it's like on like fawn leg. It's like, it's just sort of like trotting along now. It's not really like a colt. You know, it's not really like fully formed yet, but it'll get fully formed. And then once it gets hardened, and once I know that it's ready to rock, like I could smash for an hour, then I chuck it out. And so there's a lot of intensity in that regard, but it's a different kind of intensity. Like the kind of, it's a fun intensity. There's emotions, like there's, you know, jokes that don't go well and it's painful and I don't enjoy that, but I also know that that's where the growth comes from. Like those shitty sets are where like some of my biggest leaps have come from post sets where it wasn't good, and then I sort of re-engaged and reconnected and got more fired up. And as soon as that stops being important to me, I'll stop doing that too. But it doesn't have the same feeling that fighting has. Fighting has this unique moment, this unique thing to it, like that Darren Elkins fight, where it's like, man, there's not a whole lot of things like that in the world that you can witness, where that are that fucking intense, and that I have the honor to try to do service to try to.
Yeah, would say fighting is one of the few arts or sports or however you want to phrase it, experiences in the world where the stakes are immediately high.
I feel like he's having a
Shogun walks
conversation
out,
giving us.
we need a moment of silence when Shogun walks out.
It might be the last time we see him, right?
Yeah, man.
You never know. I mean, how many more years can that guy go out?
Mount Rushmore?
He's a bad motherfucker.
I
Yeah.
have about 40 guys on my Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, you must.
He's on it.
Mount Rushmore has to be big as fuck.
Yeah,
'cause-
don't give me 4 or 5.
well, first of all, you have to have Hoist Gracie. Hoist Gracie's on Mount Rushmore, period. Right? He was the original guy that set it all off, whether or not.
I mean, he still got
people-
big numbers with that Ken Shamrock fight,
Crazy.
right? Didn't he
Huge
get crazy numbers?
Huge numbers. Million
Ken
people
Shamrock's
plus.
on there, right?
Yeah, he's got to be on it.
But that's kind of like the way Babe Ruth would be on Mount Rushmore because he's one of the first, right? So
Babe
Yeah.
Ruth makes it. Yeah, his
Yeah.
but
So
his
people who
numbers
started it,
Yeah,
pioneers.
but Babe Ruth and Hoist Gracie, they did work. They just didn't start it. Like they did fucking
Right,
work
right,
too.
Right.
Like Babe Ruth's numbers are legit as shit.
Yeah. Hoist Gracie did something spectacular.
Hell
He
yeah.
introduced the idea that a smaller man could beat a bigger man in a real life fight, and with techniques that you've never seen
In
before.
a 16-man tournament.
Yeah.
Yes.
You never. Nobody
16.
saw triangles before.
16
When
man
Hoist
tournament.
Gracie tapped out Dan Severn, no one even knew what the fuck he was doing. And then
Yeah.
when you tried to bring it back to go like in 1993, try going to your local jiu-jitsu school, tell them to teach you that. Like, oh, that's advanced. They were not teaching people triangles because they thought that shit was advanced.
Nuts.
I know a dude who went to a certain jiu-jitsu school
Said,
right
"Come on,
afterwards,
son."
and they told him we can't teach you triangles yet. You're not ready for that yet. That's advanced techniques. They were holding shit back from people.
Fedor's on that Mount Rushmore for sure.
100% Fedor's on there.
And then current guys, I'd say Kane.
How many guys can you have on Rushmore?
There's too many. There's too. Mount Rushmore is.
if you had
it's
to
gotta
have
be a
4,
new thing.
if you had to four,
You can't have 4.
Can't have 4. in
Anderson
there.
Silva, GSP. We know that, right?
How did they decide who was going to be
Anderson
on
Silva,
Mount Rushmore?
GSP, 100%.
How did they decide?
Good question.
Do you know Eddie?
I have no idea.
You have to
didn't
say
read that on
who are the guys that have stayed at the top for a long time?
CNN.
Anderson Silva, GSP, and finished dudes.
Well, yeah, but then
Won,
what about Matt
fought out.
Hughes?
Yeah. Matt Hughes finished GSP in a title fight.
Yeah.
How long was Matt Hughes on top? A while,
on
right?
top for quite a while.
One of the most winning.
Okay, so
And
let's
he's
keep
another
him.
real pioneer that changed the game in a lot of ways because he introduced the idea that high-level wrestling plus submissions.
Yeah.
Like when he hit that far side armbar on GSP went for a Kimura and he didn't secure the legs, and Matt Hughes spun around that far side armbar and locked it in. It was beautiful.
And then what about Uriah Faber? What he did for the little guys?
Yeah.
And then what? And you know what?
Yeah.
I'm
Uriah
saying?
Faber, you
Yeah,
got
but
it.
no,
He's
but hold on.
What about
Uriah
Frank Mir?
the problem with Uriah Faber is he never won a UFC title, and I think if you're talking about the UFC
agree.
Hall of Fame,
BJ Penn.
In his prime,
I
though,
agree.
he won
Right.
a WC.
How about
did.
BJ Penn?
he did. BJ Penn's got to be in there.
He's
See,
got it,
there
right?
can't be 4. It can't be 4.
There's 150
You
people.
had to choose.
Hall of
You can't
Fame.
be 4. I don't know how you choose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to
It,
choose 4.
it stresses me
Just
out.
4.
I can't. I get stressed
Hold
out.
on.
I don't want to do it.
Is there a heavyweight in there? What heavyweight do you choose?
It'd be probably Fedor, Kane, or Verdun.
Fedor.
There's argument for Verdun.
No, not for
No,
not for.
Noguera.
How dare you? Noguera might be up there, but Noguera might be up there.
You got. I think Fedor, right? Over dominance for a long period of time.
What about Dominic Cruz?
Knocking dudes out. Amazing.
Yeah, he only lost twice, once by choke and once by decision. Lost by
He's
choke.
amazing.
Long ass time ago at 145.
Okay,
against
what about
Faber.
John Jones? You know what I'm saying? Like you can't
Never
have
lost.
4. You can't have. He's
John
never
Jones
lost.
never lost.
He
I
lost
think-
by
I think we
whooping
go-
a dude's ass and got disqualified.
How long-
Guys,
because of a stupid rule.
Hoist, Anderson Silva.
Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
You know what? Like you're talking about like game changers who
No,
changed
but
the
hold on.
game.
You have to look at a couple things. Longevity, like how long were they on top? That's got to take a place, right? Let's talk about criteria for it. How long have you been on top? How did you finish dudes? That's got to how many finishes? That's got to play a factor.
Well, what do you mean on?
Right?
So how long you were in the top
So
5
how long?
or
How long?
champ?
No. How long were you champ? How long did you hold the belt? That's got to play a factor.
Yeah, that's a big factor.
How long? How did you do it? Did you finish? How many people did you actually finish?
Well,
That's
it's the
gotta
caliber
play.
of your competition too. Like
Yes.
sometimes guys get dominant and they're in a slump in the
Correct.
division. Like
Yeah.
when Mike Tyson came along and was murking everybody, and there was Tony Tubbs.
Yeah, he's not
like
the best of all
right,
time.
Fighting Bruce Selden.
So
He's
so
not
com-
on-
so
Mike Tyson's
competition.
on my Mount Rushmore for that reason.
he's on my Mount Rushmore too.
So
I got it.
GSP fought everybody and stayed on top forever. Anderson Silva, everybody.
Hoist, BJ, John Jones, Anderson Silva.
GSP,
What about
What about
Demetrius?
Fedor?
What about Mighty Mouse and Fedor?
not John Jones.
Well, see, John Jones has never lost though.
And he's beat
All those other guys have lost.
amazing guys.
How
And
long?
he was the youngest champ.
How long was he up on top for? 2 years?
No, longer
No,
than
he's
that.
been on longer than that.
I don't know.
Hoist, Mark Coleman.
He beat Shogun when he was 23, man.
So
He
3
never
years,
lost
3
the
years?
title. He's 30 now. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
7
Stop.
years, B.
He wasn't on top of 7 years. Oh, wait a minute.
He's on top right
I'm
now.
sorry, excuse me. How about Jose Aldo? He's ahead of John Jones, isn't he?
Yeah, but he got knocked out by Conor McGregor.
Okay,
with one
after,
punch.
after 9 years.
Yeah, but there's a reality
9
of like
years? Are
you
you
got to look
crazy?
at someone based on the overall performance of their career.
He held the belt
No,
way
look,
longer.
he's phenomenal.
Like 3
but
years.
the big fight that he had against
His biggest fight, he
Conor
got
McGregor,
murdered.
he got murked in 14 seconds.
Okay, yeah.
John
one-
Jones
one
never
You
loss.
lost.
have to. You have
That's
to.
huge.
You
What
have
about
to count
Hoist,
all
Matt
that
Hughes,
together.
though? Matt Hughes went through Hoist, so...
Oh, he went through him like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah.
But that was an old
That's
voice.
not
That was
prime.
dad bod
No.
voice.
So Hoist,
This is what it is.
Mark
you fucking
Coleman,
people.
Fedor,
No,
Anderson
not
Silva.
Mark Coleman.
That's
You
it.
gotta go.
Mark Coleman,
Dude.
he changed a lot of shit too.
He won
Yeah,
a
Mark
belt.
Coleman's a
He-
pioneer.
UFC. He's the one who brought wrestlers to prominence.
I know.
He won a UFC belt and a Pride belt.
I know.
It's true.
And where's Dan Henderson on that bitch?
That's a good question. Two-time
Longevity, but not-
two-time division champion. It's
Strike
simultaneously
Never
in,
UFC
in
though.
Pride.
Pride,
Won the
UFC.
Strike Force championship.
Fuck
not
you. Fought
UFC.
everyone.
Amazing. Awesome.
You could argue that he might have won that decision against Bisping if it was
Yes.
anywhere other than England. A lot of people have argued that.
I understand, but I'm talking about people who held the belt. You have to use belt holders for the
But no,
longest
but
time,
Dan
right?
was fighting in Pride.
But Dan was fighting for the belt against Bisping.
I understand.
If he beats Bisping and wins the middleweight title, you got to look at him as like, man,
Yeah, but
top 5 of all time.
Who's the
this
strength coach you've talked to? Do you think that you've gotten the most from? 'Cause you've talked to a lot of them.
You know, I got a lot from Steve Maxwell for sure. I've got a lot from listening to Pavel Tatsulin talk on other podcasts and talk on audiobooks, and I've read his books too. I feel like he's a big one. Keith Weber. We've had Keith Weber on the show. He's the guy that has that extreme kettlebell cardio workout. The DVDs. He's got 3 of them. They're fucking insane. They're so hard to do. You can do them with one 45-pound kettlebell, and they'll kick your ass.
Wow.
At the end of the
How long are they?
45 minutes, I think. 44 minutes.
Do you train less? Are you a
Eddie, put your headphones on so you realize how loud opening that bag back and forth is.
Are you somebody now who believes in training less than you did from talking to those guys? As in, are most people overtrained?
This is what I think what Pavel has going on is something that he calls greasing the groove, and what he believes is you should never go to failure. He's like, your body's not designed to go to failure. If you're doing, like, say if you're doing something and you could do 10 reps with it, and then at 10 you're like, ugh, you should do 5, and then you should walk away for 5 to 10 minutes, and then do another 5. Yeah, because if you're trying to get strong, when you're trying to get strong, the way you do it is continue to do those motions correctly with full strength and full full balance and full control of the kettlebell, full control of the dumbbell, whatever if you're doing clean and press, whether you're doing deadlifts, with full control. So you're lifting with perfect technique, right? And then take a long time off so that when you come back 10 minutes later, your body's on 100% recovered. So you're not like still dying from the last set that you did 30 seconds ago. Come on, push it, push it, push it, push it.
Isn't that what
to build
sports
strength,
are?
though, right?
That's what we're talking about. We're talking about strength. We're not talking about cardio. If you want to do cardio,
Or muscle building.
Well,
'Cause
you're gonna
sports
build.
are the
You're for
opposite.
sure gonna build a lot of muscle if you get stronger. But there's a big difference between that and the hypertrophy. If you're trying to just gain weight, if you're trying to just get your muscles bigger and do like bodybuilding exercises. A lot of those dudes like to do pyramids. Where, they'll stack up the weight real high and then they drop the weight down and continue the reps until they have like almost no weight. But there's real questions as to whether or not that's a smart way to train as an athlete. And the idea being is that as an athlete, say if you have a brutal strength and conditioning workout where you're doing everything to failure, deadlifts to failure, clean press to failure, curls to failure, overhead press to failure, the next day you're useless, man.
That'd be a bad idea.
You're useless. You're not going to be able to spar. You're not going to be able to do jiu-jitsu. You're going to get mauled.
But there's different phases for that, I feel like.
There could be. That's one way of looking at it. But his way of looking at it is you do these workouts where you lift a small percentage, like half of what your actual max would be in terms of repetitions, and just take 10 minutes off and then do that again. Take 10 minutes off, and take a long time off and do that again. And by that way, you leave and you still have a lot left in the tank. You walk it, these guys are fucking going at it. God damn.
Yep.
Edson Barboza and Benil Dariush are throwing down.
Look at Darius just coming straight.
Barboza's cracked him
What
with that
about
right hand.
maxing out? What do they talk about with that?
They don't believe you should do it. I mean, you might
Ever.
want to do it every now and then just to find out where you stand, but it's not something that you should do on a regular basis for a workout.
Because I feel like a lot of sports are where you're maxing out. You're trying your hardest. If you're fighting for sure, if you're, so it seems counterintuitive. Like
say if you're
why does it
fighting,
seem
you're maxing out?
counterintuitive if you're doing
so
strength?
if you're wrestling or you're doing jiu-jitsu or a lot of times if you watch these guys, they're spending a long time using their entire body in sort of probably in a maximum effort position, right?
No,
So-
I would say no.
So if you're trying to get out of a body lock or you're,
Okay.
you know what I mean, or you're in the clinch
When do you
and
go to
stuff.
failure? When do you ever go to failure in a sport?
Well, I
You
guess you don't.
You don't really go to muscle failure in a sport. What
Yeah,
you do is you want to make sure those muscles are strong, and then you want to build up your technique. Oh, high kick by Barboza.
Wow.
You want to build up your technique and your endurance in the sport itself, like
Right.
your ability to do rounds as a fighter, or
Right.
rounds rolling in jiu-jitsu, or whatever else other sport you're doing. Your real endurance training is probably going to come from sprints. Your real endurance training is going to come from something different outside of strength training.
Or actually doing the sport
Yeah.
itself.
So actually doing the sport itself, or then again, there's also argument for plyometrics, which is a great thing to do, which is also sort of the same kind of result that you're getting from movement training, from a lot of other things that people
What's
do.
plyometrics? Explosive stuff.
Box jumps, jumping over hurdles.
So if I said you can only do 5 exercises,
Why would I'd say why? bitch?
just because. Let's just
what I
say you
would
can
say.
only do 5. What are the 5 most
I'd say, are you
important?
writing a strength condition book right
I
now?
wanna
I
know.
would say you should do more than 5 things unless
No,
there's something
because
wrong
people
with
don't
you.
have that much time
Those
and
fucking
shit.
people need to go fuck themselves.
Squats, push-ups, pull-ups.
Yeah.
I'd say
Sit-ups.
don't ask me any stupid question.
Yeah.
Backwards.
Squats,
That's not a stupid
deadlifts. I'd say squats, deadlifts, chin-ups are huge, and I think weighted chin-ups are even more huge. I'm a big believer in weighted chin-ups. I love putting one of those dip belts on with a kettlebell in between my legs and doing chin-ups that way because it makes my max chin-ups go way higher. And I do them with strict form, none of that airy-fairy
You're not into kipping, bro?
cross
You're not into kipping? Not a kipper?
No, I'm not kipping.
I had you pegged as a kipper, brother.
You know what I think? I think you should be able to do strict form pull-ups and find out how much endurance you actually have in your arms without moving your legs with it and everything else. Strict. In Strong First, in Pavel's organization,
Ooh.
you have to be able to do straight pull-ups.
There's video of, I don't know who it is, maybe Geraldo or
Yes,
somebody out
Geraldo
there.
Rivera.
He's standing in front of he's in the Middle East, he's standing in front of a poppy plantation, and there's military guys that guarding it, and they say that they're guarding it because it's the weirdest excuse ever. We're protecting these poppy seeds because if we don't, then Al-Qaeda's gonna come in and then use it and sell it to fund their operation. So we gotta make sure. Now, yeah.
Did you remember when Geraldo got fired? He was live on CNN, and he's like, all right, we're doing a secret mission here. We're locating, and draws in the sand. He's like, our mission is to go here. And they're like, you fucking moron. Everyone's going to see this. And he got fired literally like the next day. Because they gave him like inside access, and he drew it in the sand what their plan was.
God.
He's a foolish man.
Hilarious, though.
You remember when he opened up Al Capone's vault and there wasn't shit in there?
No.
You don't remember?
No.
It was a big news event. It was live on TV. We all sat around and watched.
You don't
Al
remember that?
Capone's
No.
vault.
That's crazy.
What year
He
was that?
Oh man, I want to say like 92.
And Al
Was that
Capone was
about
not
right?
in there?
86.
86?
30 million people watching.
30 million people watched nothing. They
So he
opened it up.
opened it up.
Yeah, they opened it up. There wasn't shit in there. There was nothing. Zero. It was a long-running joke. I mean, it was like every late night guy on TV was making jokes about it. Everyone had jokes about Al Capone's vault. It lasted for years. Geraldo Rivera and Al Capone's vault.
Look at him.
That
Powerful
goofy
mustache.
bastard. Yeah, he opened it up
Always had
and
good
nothing.
teeth.
But he's also the guy live from Chicago. We're gonna open it. Watch this. Boom. They got the thing.
That's his vault.
Bam. And they opened it. Yeah. Look, he took a chance with dramatic flair,
Big chance.
and it didn't really pay off. But if it did,
Well, now he has to kill time and shit.
I mean, yeah,
man.
he's got nothing in there.
God.
But he's also the guy that had Dick Gregory, actually, on his television show, debuted the Zapruder film. which is the shot of Kennedy's head getting blown off and going back into the left.
Classic.
And in what looks like a shot from the front. Looks like a frontal shot. It looks like he was actually shot by more than one person. If you look at, there's various interpretations of the Zapruder film, but one interpretation that seems to make a lot of sense is that he was hit from both the front and the back.
Two
Is that
shots.
there was multiple people shooting at him, and if you talk to anyone who was trying to, if you were looked at that pinch point, like as they make that corner in Dealey Plaza, like they were like, well, you wouldn't just have one guy with a rifle. You would make sure you were shooting at him from a bunch of different locations.
And Geraldo dropped that news?
Geraldo showed the video.
Geraldo's
But hold on a second. Here's what's important. That video was many years after Kennedy's assassination.
10 years or
Yeah, like a decade. So for a decade, we had all thought that Lee Harvey Oswald had acted alone, and there was only a few people that didn't think he did, but there was no visual evidence that showed differently.
Hey, Lee, for sure tell us, huh?
The weird
Jigs up.
thing about that Zapruder film is it always baffled me that when you see him get hit, it looks like for a couple frames, it looks like half his head disappears, and there's just a purple blob. Like it's a purple blob, but then when you look at the autopsy pictures, it's just the hole in his head, and he's just laying there. But it looks it looks like
It blew
the
it off.
film was tampered with. That's what it looks like.
Well, it doesn't look like the film was tampered with, but the autopsy photographs were most likely tampered with. And this was a big part of the contention that David Lifton had when he wrote the book Best Evidence. Because
Watch
there's
it.
two different...
Let's watch it. You'll see that it's a
Okay,
purple
sure.
blob for 2 frames. And
Yeah, well,
it doesn't make any sense.
It's spray.
But you
when
also
the
don't
bullet's
want
hitting
that.
his head's when you hit something with a bullet, there's a spray.
Yeah.
It looks like his whole face just flies off, and they're just.
Well, they
purple
say that
red.
his
Watch
head,
it.
piece
Put it
of his
up.
head flew off, and she crawled on the back to try to put his head back
No,
together,
she
which,
didn't.
which is a human being.
No,
which
she
is-
didn't. No, she didn't.
Well, that's what they-
Definitely, no, they did not say that. That's not what happened. She was trying to get the fuck out of that limousine because people were shooting, and they blew her husband's head off. She wasn't going for any piece of meat.
Oh, I heard that she was reaching to
That's
put
what
his
people
head
say.
like
People
that.
do
That
say that.
instinct,
People
you know?
say crazy shit like that.
Yeah.
That's not. She was getting the fuck
Probably
off
getting
that
down.
limo.
Did she ever talk about it? She never talked about it, I guess.
No, she never talked
Yeah,
about
so
it.
no
She
one really
married-
knows for the
She married Jackie Onassis right afterwards. She married like one of the richest people she could find.
But don't you think with that autopsy, it's your president that just got assassinated, so you're going to want to make him look the best possible.
Let me
Well,
explain.
look at the video. The Zapruder film.
But
It's
let
on
me
YouTube.
explain, because this is something I've read. I've read 15 different books on this shit, and I've watched 10 or 15 documentaries. Yeah, well, one of the big things is there's a giant difference between the account, the autopsy, what they said, their description of the body and the wounds in Dallas versus their description in the wounds in Bethesda, Maryland. Two very different autopsies. One of them that shows an entrance wound on the neck shows he got shot from the front and an exit wound or an entrance wound on his neck. On another one, that was changed to a tracheotomy scar. So there's a discrepancy. He grabs his neck like he got hit. He holds his neck maybe a second or two before his brains blow out, right? And when he's holding his neck like this, on one autopsy, on one account of the body, that's an entrance wound from a bullet. That's the Dallas one. But on another one, see, if you see him when he's going around the corner,
Look at this.
he's already holding his neck.
Yeah.
See how he's holding his neck? Like, he reached up and grabbed himself, and he's looking down, and right around, he passes the pole, and his head blows off. Watch this. Right here. Boom. Hang on a second.
Boom.
No.
Yeah, bitch, get out the way.
This isn't super slow.
So he got shot in the neck.
There it is.
Oh!
See how his head disappears right there? Like, what is that? It's like a
No,
flap of...
it's just a flap of bone and meat. It opened his
Is
head
the
right up.
fl-
So
yeah.
watch. Look, she ain't going searching for a piece of head. She's
Hell
trying to
no.
get the fuck off of that
Well, we don't know what she's doing,
limousine.
right?
You do.
No,
There's a
his
Secret
head's not
Service
even
guy
there.
right behind
Hey,
her.
bro.
That's the Secret Service guy who's climbed up at the back of the car and he's reaching for her to help her.
You think she... Oh, my God.
What a horrible
So
thing
scary.
to live through.
So, but the problem was nobody had seen that until 10 years after the assassination. So when they watch it, they go, oh my God, his head goes back and to the left. That was like that Hicks joke that he kept talking about, back and to the left, back and to the left. I mean, he got shot. It looked like he was getting shot from the front, and it hit the right side of his head, and his head goes back and to the left. But there's also some spray that appears to be either going forward. It could be an impact spray of the bullet from the front, or it could be that he got shot with two different bullets at the same time. It's very possible that he got hit from the front and the back.
It's basically very hard to tell what happened with
Yeah.
one angle, right?
Well, you know for sure he got shot in the head.
Yeah,
and
you know
for
that.
sure. his head blew apart.
What's crazy to me is, after all these years, we don't know for a fact.
No, they can't. There's no way
so
they can.
It's weird to me that no one came out and talked
Watch that
about
again.
it.
Watch this again. Now
People
watch. It's hard to tell if this is an impact spray or if it's an exit spray.
Where's his head at?
His head is right there.
Looks like an impact
Right
spray,
there.
maybe.
But it could be. It could be an impact spray from the front. Meanwhile, it very well could be that it's an exit spray too. But the thing is, his head goes back and to the left. But here's the question. Does it go back to the left from the momentum of getting hit in the head with a bullet, or is it a spasm from a dying body? Like your body locks up and it just throws itself into a convulsion. That's possible too. I mean, a lot of crazy shit happens when you get shot in the fucking head.
I heard he was a real cocksman too.
I bet he was. But I don't think that had anything to do
So
with
you
this.
don't think
I'm just saying
Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone?
I do not think Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I do not. I do not think that it's even reasonable to assume that he acted alone. There's way too many people that had vested an interest in killing him.
Like the Cubans.
Yeah,
like-
there was a lot of people. There was a lot of people that wanted him dead. And it depends on what varying version of the story you're willing to buy into. But what is possible, and this is one thing that people don't want to consider, they think either Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone or it's some wacky tinfoil hat conspiracy. I say neither. I say it might be both. I say Lee Harvey Oswald could have been in on it. He seemed like a gullible guy in a lot of ways.
He'd been to Cuba, right?
He'd been to Russia.
He'd been to Russia.
Cuba. He lived in Russia. He was married to a Russian woman.
Right.
Lee Harvey Oswald was most certainly at least in cahoots with the FBI. He definitely.
He was in the CIA.
Yes. He definitely
Really?
did some things for other organizations, and brought over during the Cold War a Russian wife. Lived over in Russia and then got back in the United States and brought over his Russian
But he
wife.
did also go to Cuba, right? Didn't he spend time in Cuba?
I believe
he did.
I believe he did.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I
Yeah.
know for a fact he lived in Russia.
No,
for
he
a
didn't
while.
go to
Was he a
Cuba.
communist?
He didn't go to
Russian.
Cuba. He was part of a Cuban movement, like
Right.
Liberty for Cuba.
I think he went to Cuba. I think he spent time in Cuba.
He might have.
Yeah.
I
Check
don't
that
know.
out.
No, he
Jamie.
didn't go to Cuba.
Okay, well, Jamie will find it. But the bottom line is, he easily could have been working for the government, and he easily could have been a part of the plan, and he easily could have been a guy that they felt maybe was, they set him up.
Is he still alive?
No, he got shot by Jack Ruby like a couple days after he shot Kennedy, or allegedly
Yeah,
shot
Jack
Kennedy.
Ruby shot him.
And
Jack Ruby died of cancer in
Well,
jail.
not only that, Jack Ruby was a mob guy that was deeply beholden to all these different groups, and
Which is very weird, right? Why would Jack Ruby, a mob guy, kill Lee Harvey Oswald in broad daylight while he's being escorted? Like, what would they were like? Well, he felt so bad for Jackie. That doesn't make any sense
bullshit.
from a
A
Jew.
shot like
Yeah.
when you look into it, the JFK story is vast. It would take you fucking 25 hours
Well,
to
people
get the
have
gist
written
of the
books
story.
on it. I mean,
It's so deep. Everybody wanted JFK dead. The CIA wanted him
yeah.
dead. The,
Embassies in Cuba
and the Soviet
yeah.
Union to
the
plot
mob
his escape.
wanted him dead.
So he was in Cuba. Yeah.
Big oil wanted him dead. Everybody wanted him dead.
So
he was
he was
trying to change the world.
He visited embassies in Cuba and the Soviet Union to plot his escape before assassinating John F. Kennedy. I think he was in on it. That's what I think.
For sure
My
he was
thing
in
is,
on it.
Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone, but I do believe he was in on it. And I bet he didn't pull the trigger. I bet
They
a bunch
set
of
him
other
up.
people pulled the trigger, and I bet he was the guy they set up. Yeah, because
Have you ever been up there? Like,
You know,
in Dallas?
you know
Yeah.
who E. Howard Hunt is?
yes.
E. Howard Hunt was in the CIA. He was part of Watergate. He's very big in the CIA. On his deathbed, he says that there was all the assassins from Operation 40. Operation 40 was a unit that they put together to assassinate Fidel Castro. All these international killers. It's just like the movie
Murder Incorporated. Yeah.
Operation
Smoking Aces.
40. Yeah, exactly. All these snipers and killers, anti-Castro Cubans. You know, they were exiled. They all got together to try to kill Fidel Castro. Bay of Pigs failed because JFK. Part of the reason was because JFK didn't. He didn't want any air support. He didn't want to be any part of. He didn't want any part of Bay of Pigs. So the CIA felt like they got abandoned by JFK. JFK fires the head of the CIA. So right there's a big rift between the CIA and JFK. The mob hated JFK too because they were supposed to protect the mob, Robert Kennedy and JFK, but because their dad was a mobster. So they thought they were going to be protected. So the mob spent all this money to get JFK in, and then he's turning on him. And Robert Kennedy, his brother, he's the attorney general. He's going after the mobs. So they're like, okay, we got to stop these motherfuckers. So when you look really look into it, a lot of people wanted him dead. Big Oil wanted him dead. They killed him in Texas. Lyndon B. Johnson, the vice president, was about to be indicted for 2 murders. You know how he stopped that? JFK got assassinated. He becomes president. He pardons himself.
Dog.
Lyndon
We
B.
just
Johnson,
went down a deep hole.
1963 was a crazy time.
Lot of
man.
people
The world was a
benefit.
different place.
I was not alive.
E. Howard Hunt on his deathbed said, Operation 4, the assassins for Operation 40 were all there. They were all there to watch the big event. They all collaborate. He says it's on his deathbed.
But here's even
he
better
was
than
there
that,
as a bum.
Eddie.
He was one of the bums.
Yeah,
we were
that's
all
what I'm
watching
saying.
him.
There's a photograph of him.
Yeah.
There's a photograph of him from the arrest. They arrested a bunch of hobos, they said, getting off a
They were all
plane.
killers.
They were all assassins.
Never-
And they've identified some of the guys who were on that train. One of them was fucking the actor. What the fuck's his name?
Woody Harrelson's
Woody
dad.
Harrelson. Woody Harrelson's dad was
Woody
an
Harrelson's
assassin.
dad was an assassin.
Like legitimate assassin.
Isn't that crazy? And,
Yeah.
and so E. Howard Hunt on his deathbed. You can watch this at the library on YouTube.
Gotta be at the
E. Howard
library.
Hunt
Gotta
on
be
his
at the library.
deathbed. He said he was bench warming. There was a lot just in case something went wrong. There was a bunch of people there. He was getting shot. He was getting lit up from all
Yeah, but
sorts
is it
of
possible
angles.
that the hobos were undercover cops?
No, the hobo.
For like
No,
for
one
like
of
undercover
the
protection.
hobos, at least one of the hobos has been identified as a known
E.
assassin.
Howard Hunt.
Not just E. Howard Hunt, but there was other guys that have, like, people have broken down the photos of the hobos, and they said that this guy is that guy, this guy's an assassin. Like, what it seems like they had done was they had planned to kill Kennedy, and they planned to do it in Dallas for some reason, and they brought in a bunch of different people to do it. Now, here's where it gets really squirrely. When you find out how many people who were witnesses, who testified that they were there at the shooting, wound up dying in really fucked up ways. They wound up dying by murder. They wound up dying in weird car accidents where their fucking brake lines were cut. There was a ton of them, so many of them that I think it might have been Lifton as well, David Lifton, the same guy who wrote Best Evidence. They had some calculation on what the odds are of all these people meeting violent demises inside of 2 years. And it was crazy. See if you can find that, young Jamie.
Is that the plot from Final Destination?
No, how many people, see if the amount of people who witnessed the Kennedy assassination who wound up dying under mysterious
That's
circumstances.
some crazy shit, man.
Dude, it's like
Astronauts, same
millions
thing.
to one. It's like millions to one. Like, if you look at how many people died and what are the odds of them all like getting murdered or killed in suicide, weird suicides, like hang themselves on a fucking coat rack, like weird shit.
Yeah, the JFK story is deep as fuck.
They killed that guy.
Everybody collaborated. They all agreed we need to get rid of this guy.
See, I'm surprised more guys, as they get older and on their deathbed, don't tell the truth.
Nobody cares.
E. Howard Hunt.
But here's the thing.
by then they're too
There's
fucking
also
old
plenty
and
of
squirrely.
fake stories. All they have to do, here we go. Look at this.
100,000
1,000 trillion to one. Some have claimed that a large number of witnesses in the event have died in mysterious circumstances. Sunday Times reported that the odds against these witnesses being dead by February 1967 were 100,000 trillion to one. Whoa. Admitted he had made a careless journalistic mistake in his book Crossfire. Author Jim Mars provides a list of 103 people he claims died in mysterious circumstances between 63 and 76. In reality, most of these people died of natural causes. Some of these people did die in accidents. Others were murdered or committed suicide. However, these people rarely had information that would have been important in helping invest. That sounds like an editorialization. I want to know who's right.
But I mean, think about it. If you're going to pull off an assassination and then you're all going to go as a group, let's kill everybody around there.
Doesn't matter.
That's hard to do.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I don't have
But
faith
you're not
in
looking
that.
at that right. What I'm saying is what that guy wrote is an editorialization. Like, that might be correct, but it might be wrong too. He's making an assumption, and he's writing this guess based on that assumption.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you. Like, okay, so you got all those witnesses. That's really hard. Now you got to organize all
Well, look
those
at this.
murders. Good luck.
All these different people that were witnesses. Look at this. Make that a little larger, Jamie, so I can read this shit. Look at this.
They all died pretty spaced out. They had a lot of time
These
to
are all
talk.
Kennedys.
Oh, these are all Kennedys that were whacked.
Yeah.
Well, everybody hates the Kennedys, man. They started
they were
out
killing the game.
They started out as drug runners. They were running moonshine. That's how they started. That's where they made their money.
Joe Kennedy.
This is deep.
And then JFK and the rest of his sons, they started trying to change the world for real. And they're like, that ain't happening. Everybody wanted JFK. They knew, they joked around about how they knew what they were trying to do was, put their lives in jeopardy.
You know what's really interesting
Even his son. Look at his
Robert.
son, the way his son died on that plane. You look into that. Holy shit.
No, that guy was coked up, man. He was coked up and he didn't know what he was doing. He was driving into the fog. You have to be
You gotta
really
look into
good.
it. You gotta look into it.
I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
What do you think,
Dude,
Eddie?
he died with cocaine in his system and he didn't know how to drive in the
A lot
fog.
of shady shit.
Dude,
Lot of
people
shady shit.
crash.
Did they find his body? Did
Yes, they
even
found the
his body?
plane. They found his body. When
Yeah, you
people
gotta look
crash,
into
over 100 murders, suicides, and mysterious deaths. The strange fate of those who saw Kennedy shot.
For sure, live. You saw it.
See, I'd have to read all these.
That's
different.
pretty organized.
He's killed by a karate chop.
Oswald was coming out saying, I'm a patsy, I'm being set up. Pop, pop, pop.
Yeah, and then Jack Ruby shoots him on TV.
And this
Yeah,
is
on
Jim
TV.
Cobb was killed by a karate chop to the throat as he
The
emerged
Jack
from the
Ruby,
shower.
the Jack Ruby killing, that's what raises my, where I go, why would Jack Ruby kill,
There's so much
why would
to
he
JFK.
assassinate him
There's so much.
and then just keep his mouth shut and go to jail? What the fuck is that about? That's the part that I think is really weird.
I know you're
sense.
a super expert on JFK. You know more than I do, but I spent a lot of time on JFK as well. I just let you talk, but I know a lot about that. And there's so much.
There's people
Jesus Christ.
that know way more than me.
There's so
I've only
much.
read a few people's books.
The guy that blows me away the most about JFK, who knows, he studies all the players, all the mob guys involved, is a guy named Rye Dawson. He's a fucking JFK encyclopedia, dude. He knows. It's so deep. It's like Game of Thrones times 10.
Yeah, it's hard to tell who's right.
It isn't just JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald, and maybe a couple other assassins. It's so goddamn deep. You could spend a lifetime just studying and all the names and how they're all connected. It's crazy. It's super vast.
Well, it's unquestionably a mystery, and the idea that it's not is pretty ridiculous to me.
Look at that
this,
triangle.
bitch. Go ahead. Get in the
she
trap.
slipped
Oh,
out.
slippery.
Nice grease.
T-Mobile Arena reserves June 10 for Mayweather McGregor. Good.
Yes.
Good googly moogly.
It's fucking happening.
How is that going to happen?
What do you mean?
How you think the UFC and Mayweather come to an agreement?
Yes, that's what's happening.
And
Because
Conor comes to an
T-Mobile in
agreement?
Vegas is in cahoots with the UFC. I guarantee UFC's involved.
But the report, who knows who made that report?
Pretty legit.
You might have did it on the way over here.
I might have. I think it's gonna happen, man.
Wow, you really think so?
I really do. And you're asking me to commentate it. So let's just figure this out now. You want to talk
June
logistics?
10th.
What are you doing June 10th? Probably companion
I don't
with
know,
me.
man. I don't know, man. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, if you're not commentating, we're gonna do a giant companion for it and
Yeah,
fucking
that would
celebrate the shit out of it.
I would prefer that, honestly.
June 10th.
June 10th.
It's about to
is-
get real.
Not if my man Mayweather throws you that TMT money.
I don't think they really care about me commentating. They'd probably want Max Kellerman or the boxing people
Bro,
to do it.
Max Kellerman and you,
It would be fun. I would love to do it with them. But
that's
it's
that's the
it's
attitude.
a boxing match. You know, that's their world.
Yeah,
I mean, if it was an
they don't know
MMA
Conor,
match
though.
and he was sitting down next to me doing commentary, you know, that I think that would be a little odd too.
Not if Floyd was just doing boxing in the octagon. You know what I'm saying?
Do you think it'd be in an
give you some.
octagon?
Well, no. I'm saying if the roles were reversed.
Oh,
like I think
right.
you could talk about moving Connor's history because they're not gonna know shit. Let's be real.
Right.
They're gonna be like Shannon Sharp talking about UFC. It's tough
Right.
to listen to. It's gonna be good to have someone who's knowledgeable break down like Connor's history, how he came here, how he got his movement, what he's known for. I think that's super important. You have to have
For
a guy
people who
with
don't
UFC
watch
knowledge.
UFC.
Yeah, because you're getting a shitload of new boxing.
You know what
and
sounds
fans
better?
tune in.
Hanging out with you guys, smoking weed, watching it right here. That sounds so much better.
I just want my dear friend Joe Rogan part of the biggest fight of combat in history.
I'm good. I'd like to
That'd be a
sit
big deal.
right here.
You're crazy. You don't think that's the biggest fight in history?
I'll
Is
live
it? You think it's the
tweet it.
biggest fight in history? Bigger than Ali,
Yeah.
Frazier?
Yes, number-wise, yeah.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
biggest fight ever.
biggest pay-per-view ever.
Because it brings in two worlds. It brings in the UFC world, and there's one guy who's unquestionably the biggest star in the UFC, unquestionably by a long
The
shot.
objects that
And then
you
you
need
bring
for
in
this
a guy
quest
who
are
has been one of the
definitely
biggest moneymakers in the history of
nearby.
boxing.
Change the game.
The
Have
only
a
guy
good
to go
look for
49-0 other than Rocky
high.
Marciano. I mean, he's like
Low.
right there, and we'd love to break Rocky
Look
Marciano's
medium.
record. And then you know
They're
what, man?
usually
When people
hiding
want
in
to do
plain
things like
sight.
break someone's record, and you want to do it so bad that you take on a guy who's never had a boxing match before, and then that guy starches you.
So sick. It'd be so sick.
I mean, it's not
If
like
he does that, I'm going to build
but
a
if he
shrine
did
to
it,
him and pray to it every day.
There's something
I
about
might get a
that
tattoo
dude,
on my
man.
neck.
I'm telling you, there's something about that dude. He's got something going on.
Magic.
He's got a little something extra special, but he would need everything to line up. It would have to be the McGregor or Mayweather would have to dismiss him as a threat. He'd have to not train hard enough. He'd have to not seriously consider the possibility that Conor connects on him and knocks him out.
Right.
And then Conor would have to do some roughhousing. He would have to hold him
Yes,
in the
get
clinch.
nasty, yeah.
He'd have to hold him and hit him. He'd have to try to get off as many shots and bully him around and wear him out.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. He's a much
It would be
bigger man.
nuts.
He's a much bigger
Quick too
man.
for how big he is.
Yeah.
Very, very quick.
But if you compare the two of them frame wise, like what if they ever do it and they're standing right at each other, looking down at each other, doing eye to eye, you're gonna go, oh shit.
Yeah, Conor's way bigger.
Because you remember when Eddie Alvarez was going eye to eye with Conor, and you realize how big Conor's head is. You're like, Jesus
just
Christ.
overall, just a bigger dude. From shoulders, his legs.
He's a big fuck. I mean, he can make that 145-pound cut when he's on death's door, but Mayweather makes it easy.
What are they going to fight at? 45?
That's a good question.
No.
Mayweather was fighting at 154
Yeah,
his last
54.
few fights.
Wow.
So I bet they do it at like 55, 60 maybe.
Maybe. Depends
Who
on
knows?
what Mayweather's comfortable with.
But I think in Dana White, you want to be part of that fight. If you're Dana White, you want to be in cahoots with all these guys, with Mayweather, Floyd,
or
and Conor.
you don't want the fight to take place at all. And look, he got fucked because Nurmagomedov got sick making that weight. If Nurmagomedov didn't get sick making that weight, then Nurmagomedov and Tony Ferguson, Dana White did.
Oh, okay.
Like the
I thought you
UFC
said Conor
did.
did.
No, the UFC did. Because look, the real fight is the winner of Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov.
In the UFC.
Right. So that's the real fight, is like being a big challenge for Conor, and that could be $1 million+ pay-per-view.
As a
bucks.
purist.
Right.
Ooh.
Especially if you either have that fight, or the better fight financially is another fight with Nate Diaz.
No, the better fight financially is Mayweather.
Oh yeah, for boxing.
But not even
no,
close.
for
No,
sure.
I'm saying for Conor.
Oh no, for sure.
For Conor as a business, that's by far the best fight.
100% agree with you. What I'm saying, and
20 million?
way more than
Oh,
that.
excuse me,
Conor?
sir.
100 million.
Conor?
Like 100
Probably
million.
100.
Now, how did you get involved in all this online stuff? Because that's how I found out about you. And I found out about you through Tom
serendipity.
Segura.
I mean, I got involved online because I own businesses that market online.
But you're a great online advice guy.
Yeah, oh, no. I mean, 5 of the top online money producers on the planet I trained.
Like, who are the top 5 guys?
Well, Matt Lloyd, Shakir Hussein.
I feel like this is like he's telling me
Pat
about all stars in a
Popius.
sport I don't follow.
Pat Popius.
Oh, Pat. Shakir, Pat. I know those dudes. No.
Yeah, these guys make $3 to $7 million a month.
Jesus. That's a lot of money.
I hope you're paying taxes, boys.
Pay that tax.
You know,
Especially now.
I know you. One of them for sure believes in no taxation without representation.
Oh, one of those guys, huh?
Yeah. In fact, Scotland remember that one.
Really?
Yeah. So, but I trained them, but I didn't train them. You know, I know about impressions and traffic. I understand all that. But when Google changed their algorithms 10, 12 years ago, they used to want 100 guys that produced 100 million online. Now they want 10 million guys that produce 10,000 online. And so that's how they built their platform. And Google is a great tool, but a better tool, in my judgment, for what I do is LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn is some shit that people from high school always send me. Oh, that page, I might join your LinkedIn page.
Huh? Are you on LinkedIn?
No, but I get like invitations
Oh, yeah.
to join LinkedIn more than anything I ever get online,
Okay.
and I don't join.
Well, I mean, LinkedIn is a professional thing.
I know, that's why it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're sending that crap to me.
But you're professional, even though you pretend not to be.
Oh, I pretend?
Yes.
Interesting. Is that your perception?
Yes,
I'm
it is.
pretending not to be. Assess
That's
me.
your shtick.
Oh, my shtick is that I pretended not to be
No.
professional?
Your shtick is you pretend to be outside the box. When I believe that you're more inside the box than these melon heads listening know or realize.
Well, like, what do you mean by in the box?
I mean, you have some. I know you're a libertarian, if my research
Yeah.
is correct.
Pretty much.
Okay, and I realize, but I mean, you believe in some real down-to-earth values that are actually in the box that made America great. Would you disagree?
Yeah, probably. Define those. Like, what do you mean?
You've talked about. We've talked briefly about commitment, focus, honor,
Hard work, discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what made this country great.
Well, that's what makes people great.
Well, okay. Well, people make a country.
Comfort is not what makes people great.
No, and the getting out of your comfort zone is the reason the millennials have such a hard time now.
Yeah, they're all sitting on the couch playing video games.
And they're still living at home when they're 34 years old.
That's true.
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
When I was 18, I couldn't get out of the house quick enough.
But don't you think that that's sort of like what we always expect from the fall of civilizations? I mean, that's what we always were taught about Rome, right? That Rome got to be incredibly gluttonous, and then it all collapsed into the weight of its own bullshit.
Rome, yeah, correct.
And that's kind of like.
You don't think that's going to happen to the U.S.
think
or
it's
America?
happening. I think it's happening right now.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
But do you think it can be changed? Can it be turned around?
Anything can be changed if we want to do it bad enough. We're willing to pay the price to action. It's going to be painful.
Well, I think people just need to understand that there's consequences. There's consequences that you pay to constantly seeking comfort and avoiding discomfort and avoiding hard work. And those consequences are you're never going to feel self-realized. You're never going to feel like you accomplished anything. You're never going to have this feeling of understanding that difficulty and struggle and the ability to push through that is a muscle. And you develop that muscle by doing it. And once you do, you develop a lot of self-satisfaction and you develop peace of mind and you understand that you can overcome obstacles. If you don't have to overcome obstacles, you never know whether or not you can. Like what you were talking about with trigger time. Unless you are faced with actual adversity, you don't understand how you're going to feel and how you're going to react when you overcome that adversity.
One of the things I believe that I'm the best on the planet in doing is I get you to do what you don't want to do to be what you want to be.
What do I need to do? Tell me what you do.
Well, I don't, you know, this is the first time I ever met you. You know, you're an enigma inside a, what's that saying?
A riddle?
Yeah.
Wrapped in secret sauce?
Correct. Something like that. And but so, I mean, hopefully this isn't the last time I'll ever talk to you. But I mean, you're an idol to, you know, several million people.
Those people need help. I'm the wrong guy.
Yeah. Well,
keep moving. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Yeah. And what I do, and before they put dirt on me in 50 more years, is I want to minimize people's regrets. Okay, and because we all have regrets, and I told you what my 3 regrets were earlier in your program here. But I mean, to minimize regrets, and the millennials will have a different sort of regrets. Right now, for the past 7 or 8 years, we've had free money. Interest rates have been free. It's literally free. 100 years from now, they're going to say, what the fuck were you doing when they were giving away free money? I mean, literally. The people that are listening to this, 20 years from now, their children and grandchildren are going to say, Grandma, Grandpa, what the fuck were you doing other than having your thumb up your ass during the period of free money?
Now, when you say interest rates are free, you talking about business loans?
Correct. I mean, you can, it's never going to get, well, it can only go up from here. And Yellen, the head of the Federal Reserve, has already upped them once, and she says, I guess she's going to up them a couple more times. But historically, interest rates ought to be 8, 10, 12, not 2, 3.
Right.
If you can't make a business proposition work at 2 or 3% interest, so you pay 1 or 2 points over that, which is the vigorish of the interest that they get for. You ought to swallow, and I only mean this metaphorically, kids. You ought to swallow a fucking revolver.
You're a smart financial guy. How the hell do they make that money back? Whoa, Jesus, damn. Why did you do that?
It's not likely.
No?
The way I would do it is I would take it public.
Oh, is that how you make your money back?
You heard it here first on Joe's show. Take it public.
And if they take it public?
They can make 50% on their money in a week. I mean, a week after they take it public, because the average investor pays up too much. They pay up high multiples, And the difference between a non-liquid investment and a liquid investment, the multiples are normally 50 to 100% higher.
Just lost me talking
okay,
Chinese.
Okay, if let's just say they bought it at 20 times earnings.
Okay.
Okay. 4 billion equated to 20 times earnings.
Right, so that means 20 times per annual earnings?
Yeah, that's correct. So they take it public, and the investment public, the schmucks that buy stocks on the New York Stock Exchange will give you 40 times.
They will?
Yes.
Oh, why don't they do that then?
Well,
what's the problem with taking things public?
Well, they lose control. And it depends on how much of the stock are they going to sell.
Right.
If they're going to sell 10%, they're certainly not going to sell 50.1% because then they lose total control.
Right.
But then they're also have to adhere to the SEC, Security Exchange Commission. There's rules, and they have to have audited statements every 90 days. And if they gave you too much money for expenses and it's down there as a footnote, they're going to come and investigate. Why'd you give Rogan that? Why'd you do that? And most people don't want to go public because of that. I went public because I could see that I was going to make 1,000 times my money. I mean, or not even 100,000 times my money. So it was a no-brainer.
You made 100,000 times your money by going public?
Well, it's actually better than that. I grew,
Jamie, we need to take this podcast public.
I grew at 67,000% a year.
What the fuck does that even mean? How is that even possible?
67. My total growth on my original investment was 55 million%.
Jesus Christ. That's a lot of money.
And there hasn't been Facebook nor anybody else, anybody even close. But unfortunately for me, because it was 25 years ago, I was at a low base. My base was only 500,000. Or 500 million. But now, I mean,
what does that mean by your base?
In other words, I grew the company from $800
right
to 500 million.
Right.
Okay. So, but my initial base was I call it $1,000.
Okay.
Okay. And my exit base was 500 million.
Okay.
$500 million. And of course, I had a lot of shareholders. It wasn't just me. But now, the company grew. If you take $800 and you figure out do a spreadsheet on the growth per year at 67,000%, and you do the total growth, it's 55 million%. 55 million%.
Now, if you're an MMA fan, and if you were going to give advice to the people that own the UFC, what would you tell them? Oh yeah, What would you give them?
I'd hire somebody like Goldman Sachs. I'd hire more than one. I'd say Goldman Sachs and J.P. Morgan or somebody like that, or Credit Suisse, to look at how to make their investment liquid. Because now it's frozen like a stiff dick. I mean, it's not going anyplace.
So what does that mean? Like, how do you make it liquid?
Liquid, okay. Let's just say we're going to take this podcast public.
Okay, let's do it. Let's get crazy.
Okay, let's get crazy. Now let's just say that right now you make let's throw out numbers $1 million a year off your podcast, and you have no other shareholders. Okay, just
okay.
You. Okay. Now you want to take it public, and you want to take it public on one of the secondary or tertiary exchanges because this wouldn't be big enough to take on the New York Stock Exchange, and you want to sell shares in your baby for $1,000 a share. Okay.
How many shares does one have?
Well, as many as you want. If you want.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can make 100 million shares at $1,000 a share?
Yeah, but you couldn't equate that much value. But you could do 1,000 shares at $1,000 a share.
Okay.
Okay. And so you sell 20% off to the public. So 20% of those shares are, and I mean, you got millions of people that follow you. I mean, that would be a slam dunk. I mean, it would be a no-brainer. It'd be a no-brainer.
But then a bunch of people would be telling me who to get
as long as you got keep control. Fuck
keep
you.
Control.
You know.
They would try to get that power though.
Yeah, well, they would. And but as long as you held, or your group, or your consortium, or you and your buddies held more than 50%, they could never take control.
Right.
Getting back to why the oil hydrocarbons are so important. Russia's got an oil-driven economy now. A good many of the countries in South America have oil-driven economies now. Canada has an oil-driven economy now. The UK arguably has an oil-driven economy now vis-a-vis the North Sea. Okay. The U.S. doesn't really have an oil-driven economy, but it has a big part of what happens. Now, when you are making loans from financial institutions at $100, $120 oil with projections, because some dipshit MBA did a spreadsheet on them, to $200 oil, and you make loans, and now all those loans are underwater, pun intended for the offshore stuff.
So is that what happened? They made loans
Correct.
based on the prediction that it would continue to
Correct.
go up. So some sort of universal growth or continual growth
Correct.
paradigm?
But anybody that's from the business like I was knew that was horseshit.
Why did they think that unlimited growth in oil was going to happen and it was going to get to $200 a barrel, if guys like you thought it was horseshit?
Because a whole other generation has come up that didn't suffer the last oil decline. The last oil decline was the early 80s through the mid 80s, when oil went from $40 a barrel to $6 a barrel, and then went back up to $35 a barrel. All those guys are either dead, in jail, or retired. Okay? And now they got young guys who learned something in a book, went to good schools, know how to do spreadsheets, etc., but they don't have the experience. And we have tons and tons of information, but what we don't have running a lot of the companies is tons and tons of experience. We have a lot of dots, but we don't have the people that have connected the dots.
Now, to connect the dots to find out how much the Middle East actually has in barrels of oil, these trillions of barrels of oil, how would one do that?
Well,
and is this public information? Like what you're saying,
no,
most people don't know this.
No, they don't know.
How do you know it?
Well, because I was partners with the Kuwaiti government for 7 years. I used to be their fair-haired boy for investment.
Is that what they call you, a fair-haired boy?
Fair-haired boy, yeah.
What does that mean?
Fair-haired boy means that I was their favorite.
What a weird expression.
Yeah, fair-haired boy. Fair-haired, I don't have black hair.
Right.
Okay. I have blue eyes.
Right.
I'm fairing my complexion.
Got it.
Okay, that's what
I get it, but it's a weird.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I think it's very surprising that Aramco is going to go public with the numbers, because it's been one of the great big secrets of all time in the energy business.
Do you think they're going public with the numbers to discourage further fracking?
Correct.
So they're going to say, look, we would rather have 100% of this thing at half the price.
Correct.
Than lose it all.
Correct. And the most of the alternative energy deals in the United States and the UK are funded by grants, government programs that fail. I mean, they don't make any money. But when you stop doing that, the average cost for a barrel of oil, not fracking, in this country is about $45-50 a barrel. We're right at the break even to bring it up to the wellhead now. Okay. In the Middle East, taking all of them into account, it's about $3 a barrel.
$3 a barrel.
Yeah. A couple of the countries less than $1.
Whoa. How the fuck do they do that?
Because the oil is
right there.
Here.
Uh-huh.
And they found oil. They were living in tents as Bedouins, and they were looking for water. Because they'd be dead now. If they hadn't found water 100 years ago, they'd all be dead. But they didn't need the water because they got the oil. They paid to make the water drinkable.
Desalinate.
Correct. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
So that's an amazing thing. So why is Exxon bothering to drill in the Gulf Coast?
Because hope springs eternal.
So they want to plan for the future.
Correct. I drilled in the Gulf Coast when I was running a big oil company, and there's two parts of the Gulf Coast. There's the shelf, which is 600 feet deep, and then there's beyond the shelf, which is like 10,000 feet deep, and that's big money to drill those test wells. The big guys like Exxon are looking for elephants. They're looking for the big reserves. Smaller independents like I was looking for the smaller reserves.
Now, when Exxon goes and looks for the big reserves, what kind of equipment do they use to decide where the oil is?
Well, an offshore drilling rig will cost between, in the shallow, 25 to 40 million, and in the deep, 75 to 250 million.
See how the citizens go happily about their business.
So, how do they know where the oil is?
Reasonable
They have geologists, which are like,
there are lots of
this is a
different
personal
types
point of view.
towns
Geologists, geophysicists.
Like psychics.
Yeah, exactly.
Why not settle
You're better
down
off
there
with
yourself?
a psychic.
Build a house.
So they
Build a place
basically
of
know
work.
there's a shitload of oil
Start a
out
family.
there. So
Somewhere.
They just
Or at
drill
least
in.
spawn in some
Now,
characters
what is
you
oil?
like to look
Explain to me what is oil. I read a book a long time ago that confused the fuck out of me. It was called Black Gold Stranglehold. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
I've heard of it. I never read it.
It was a book that was saying that oil is not fossil fuels, and then it's not what people think it is, but it's actually a renewable process that the earth creates this oil, and that wells go dry, and then if you leave them alone for a while, they build up with oil again.
No, well, that's a theory, but nobody's ever left the well alone long enough to find out if that's true or not.
So
they're talking about hundreds or thousands of years. They're not talking about 40 years.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, but wells. Oh, so this guy. It seemed like a wacky book. It was one of those books I was reading. Have you ever read The Holographic Universe?
No.
It's another book. Like halfway into the book, I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? This is a goofy ass book. It's just too much goofiness in it. But that Black Gold Stranglehold, I wanted to talk to a real oil man about this. So oil is created by what? Things dying and deteriorating?
Correct. From 40, 50, 100 million years ago. And they sit under the ground and they form hydrocarbons. Two different kind of hydrocarbons. Either that's like gas and oil, and when it comes up one pipe and there's a separator. Sometimes you just have a pure oil well, sometimes you have just a pure gas well, but mostly you have a mix. So there's a separator. It's a unit that is a engineer's wet dream at the top that separates all this. Then it's put into a pipeline and taken to a refinery, or it's put into a truck and taken to a refinery. And some of the distillate, the actual oil, it's depending on the gravity, can go straight into a car. I mean, that's how pure it is. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be refined. Of course, the refiners don't like those kind of wells because then they.
So what is it when you don't have to refine it?
I mean, it has been sat under the ground. The
For
thicker
so
the
long?
oil, the less time it's been under the ground. So if you've got oil that's been there 40 million years, it will look like kerosene. If you've got oil that's only been there 10 million years, it'll look black and gunky.
Oh, that's fascinating. Now, we used to call it dead dinosaurs, but it's not really animal matter as much as it is plant matter. Is that true?
Plant, yeah.
Mostly plant matter?
Yeah.
So it's just deteriorating leaves and trees and things along those lines, and then slowly but surely over millions of years becomes oil. What a weird thing to power our world on. Yeah, I had a nose operation that got my deviated septum fixed, and this doctor
It's
gave
bad,
me
I heard too.
It's people fucking complain about everything. I remember before I got tattooed, people were like, "Oh my god, tattoos are so painful." Like, and the first tattoo, I was like, "That's it? That's the shit that everybody's complaining
Better than
about?"
me, man. That shit hurts.
Well, I always wonder, right? Not saying like not playing tough guy, but I really wonder what pain feels like to other people. Like, I assume that I know what your pain is like, but I don't know if that's true because. Why do I like certain foods and other people think it tastes like shit?
Yeah,
something's got to be different.
That bothers me too.
Yeah, it's got to be different. Yeah. Like your taste buds, it's not just simple like I can take it. I think people experience different sensations.
It kills me how people don't like spicy food.
Right.
Like, I love spicy food. It makes that little kick in it. Just,
oh, yeah.
And it's like, why would I want to burn my mouth? I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? Like, maybe I just like a little bit of pain every now and then.
Well, it's a kind of a sensation more than it's a pain.
Spice is pain.
Well, sort of.
No, it is.
But it doesn't hurt.
To you?
But it doesn't hurt like...
Have you ever had a habanero pepper?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, you know what I have in the morning? I drink bone broth with habanero sauce in it.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why?
It's good. It's good for you.
Okay.
Bone broth is very good for you. High in collagen,
okay,
both.
Okay.
Good and good for you. It tastes good, like beef bone broth. And I put some, and then I put some habanero sauce in there. Woo!
See, that's you deep into that nutrition. I couldn't. That's different.
Oh, it's great. I'm telling you, it's like a delicious tea. Like a warm fluid, a liquid
sit down and have some bone broth with you one day,
dude,
man.
you would like it. I'm telling you.
I'm open, man.
There's a place down the street actually that sells it. They sell. Yeah, they sell. California's so
What kind of bones?
Chicken's really good. Turkey's good.
And you can taste a different kind of bone.
Yeah. Chicken is probably the best tasting bone broth. Jamie agrees.
Spot in New York I went to called Brodo.
It's all broth?
Yeah, they had like my grandma's stew, but it was just like, it tasted like chicken soup, just the water, or just the broth, whatever.
They're just boiling
so
bones.
Really good.
That shit is brand new. I've never even heard of people drinking bone.
It's pretty recent. I mean, not really. I mean, people have been doing it for a long time, but it's pretty recent as a fad around here in particular. And there's a place out here, I think it's called Sun Life Organics, that's the joint, that sells bone broth, and they'll add a little hot sauce to it. And that's where I got the idea. I was like, ooh, I like it. And so then I buy bone broth. I buy it in bulk. bring it home. I have like at any given time, I might have 40 bottles of bone broth in my refrigerator.
That's bananas, yo. That shit's crazy. I never even hasn't made its way to Texas yet, man.
What about bone marrow? Do you ever eat bone marrow?
Nah, no.
Oh man, bone
I've never had a
marrow's-
bone before.
No.
in any aspect.
Well, and a lot of fancy restaurants, they sell bone marrow. And what they're doing is they're taking the femur of the cow, they saw it, and then they slice it down the middle.
Peter going crazy.
And
man.
they cook it, bake it in the oven, and there's like this gelatinous, fatty substance in the middle that's incredibly nutritious. Especially like these days where people are on these real high-fat, ketogenic-based diets are all the rage.
Right.
A lot of people are eating bone marrow. Show them some bone marrow, young Jamie. Yeah, like that. So you get that, and a lot of times people see that like with a little toast. People like it with toast, but you just take the bone marrow with a fork and scoop it out of that. The dark stuff in the center there, scoop it out of there with a fork and just slurp it down. I love it, man. If it's on the menu, I fucking order it every time.
I gotta try this, man. This shit is.
What about organ meat? You eat organ meat?
Like from
like
the steak?
livers?
Oh, actual organs.
liver, heart. Any of that
I've
stuff
never
like
ate
that?
it. I've never ate an organ either, man. I'm from the inner city, man, so I'm not that cultured with the palate, man.
Well, that's not even. I mean, when I was a kid, my grandmother used to cook that
That's
liver and
country stuff,
onions.
though, ain't it?
Yeah, it's country
That's what I'm
stuff.
saying. I'm from
yeah.
the city, so it's like.
Yeah. Well, I think it's one of those things where poor people ate it initially because they didn't want it to go to waste. Like, more wealthy people would eat like the finer cuts of meat, like filet mignon. You go to a restaurant, I'll have the filet, medium rare. But you know, people would shy away from things like liver, and they would think that that's. But it's real good for you.
I heard people eating it, and you eat the chitlins too.
Oh yeah.
To me, every time I turn on my iPhone, you know what? I didn't ask for fucking Fox News Bulletin.
They force feed you.
They force feed me every morning, CNN. So when I
they
turn
don't
on my
feed
phone,
you Joe
hold
Rogan
on.
Experience or
Yeah.
InfoWars.
Yeah.
That's why you
They
got to search
feed
it out.
you-
Because Joe's real, I'm real, you're real. Whether we're perfect or not, it doesn't matter. We want to be real. Everyone should human intelligence, support this podcast and InfoWars and the Joe Rogan Experience and make this dominant, which it already is, just to say, listen, bitches, you may force feed Eddie Bravo a bunch of CNN, Fox News shit every morning, but you're fucking getting the Joe Rogan Experience up your fucking ass.
Holy
Jesus
shit.
Christ. I
That
can't
was
believe
amazing.
you went there.
Every time I turn on my phone and look at what is CNN trying to fucking force feed me?
Yeah.
Boom.
Since when does an iPhone force feed you the possessed, demonic
And it's always
PCP jizz
Trump.
of fucking
Anti-Trump.
Anderson Cooper?
Anti-Trump.
Disease.
Every day.
By the way, that's all before they knew that eating primate brains is like super bad for you.
Is it?
Fuck yeah. Primates have prions in their brains. That's where you get mad cow disease. Like mad cow disease or Jacob Creutzfeldt, however you say it. That disease comes from eating the same tissue as the species that you are. So that's why cows get it. Cows get it from eating brain tissue of other cows. Like you feed cows, that's one of the horrible things about industrialized farming is they would actually take whatever the fuck is left of the cow they're not using and they grind it up and feed it to fucking cows. Cows that are straight vegetarian that are only supposed to be eating grass. They're not even supposed to eat corn. When they eat corn, it fucks them up. And they're feeding them cow brains. They're feeding them their own bodies. It was hard, and that's what get. Yeah, and that's how they got mad cow disease.
What if you cat brains? That's okay.
That's okay. You
My
calf
mother
brains
used
are
to
good.
My mother used to slice them thin.
Yeah.
Bread them with Italian Progresso and deep fry them. God damn.
Good.
A little bit of fucking lemon.
My Uncle Vinny used to cook them on the grill.
Cook
My Uncle
what?
Vinny.
Hold up.
Ram
Cat
brains,
brains?
calf
Oh my
brains,
God.
calf.
What the fuck are
Cow
we
brains.
talking about?
Brains of a cow.
Oh, I thought you said cats.
Oh,
shit.
Sorry.
Oh, Joe! What the fuck is going on here?
That's such a small scoop of cat
I
brains.
know. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
what? I
good.
thought you were a cat guy. What
No,
the
no.
fuck?
You could. Oh my God. You used to slice those calf brains.
See, I heard cat.
I'm sorry, but you squeeze the liver out. If I give them to you in the way, eat that chicken cutlet. You go, Joey, these are the best chicken cutlets I ever fucking had. One of the chicken cutlets. Cat's brains.
Yeah, cow brains. It's good, man. It's really good.
Go to un limoncito. Un limoncito de cow.
Don't feed it to another cow. There's a thing called prions, and those are what the problem is. And these prions, here's what's really crazy. It's almost like nature has a foolproof way, there's calf brains. nature has a foolproof way of making sure it fucks you up with these prions. Because these prions can exist at 1,000+ degrees for a long time. So you can't cook them out. Like, they exist at a temperature way above anything you're ever going to expose your food to. And they can, I think, find out how long prions can exist at over 1,000 years. I think it's something stunning, like hours at 1,000 degrees. So you're not going to kill them. So if you got them in your food, if you're eating, and where they found this also, not just in mad cow disease, but in New Guinea, in cannibals. When they find cannibals, they exhibit the same sort of neurological issues, where their whole body starts shaking. Like with Jacob's Creutzfeld's, it's like a lot like Parkinson's. Like you start fucking shaking. It's a neurological disease. That those prions from eating brain matter from human beings, it actually gets into your system and just fucks you up. Apparently you can eat meat though. You can eat like human meat. It doesn't do anything.
You're fine?
Yeah, it's human brains that's the real issue. It's just
Who the fuck is eating human brains?
a lot of people, man. I mean, there was one of the best evidence, best pieces of evidence that human beings, Homo sapiens, preyed on Neanderthals, was finding Neanderthal brains or skulls with their brains scooped out. They had scratch marks on the inside where people were scooping out the brains.
They had spoons?
They had rocks. They had whatever the fuck they could use to scoop stuff up. But they're scraping, you know, when you're getting a brain, there's that connective tissues, the shit that all goes wrong when you get knocked out too many times. And that connective tissue is this fibrous matrix that holds the brain in place. And they're scraping that shit away with a rock.
Like a gel?
The fluid, yeah.
There's fluid, but there's also like tissue. There's
Well,
like
maybe it was raccoon
fiber.
scratching shit. You
No,
know?
it's tools. It's like deep bone scratches.
Gnarly as
Yeah.
raccoon.
Well, they figured out, they know the difference between what the characteristics of predatory stuff, like an animal that's like gnawing on bones, and real obvious slices that came from like a tool, like when human beings made those flint tools and shit like that. So they've done enough of those tests where these archaeologists can examine these flint marks on bones and with a very high degree of certainty tell whether or not someone's using a flint tool on bone, whether or not they're using, you know, what's one of the more interesting things about Egypt, in fact, because there's some artifacts in Egypt that are so perplexing. When I had John Anthony West on the podcast, he and I had some conversations about it. It was really interesting because they don't know how the fuck they carved these things out. There's some vases, that they made out of stone that exhibit like what looks like someone cut them with a diamond, like some diamond-headed drill. Like they literally don't know how they did it because it's missing all of the characteristics of that you would normally get from someone making something like this. Like the hole at the front is too small and it goes inside and it's all smooth inside. So like how the fuck did they do this? 'Cause they did it all out of stone. Carved it all out of one piece of stone. So they can see stuff like they found some other things, different holes in things that they're pretty sure like they used some sort of a, if not a diamond drill, like some kind of a drill with an incredibly hard tip. But so they know that people were eating Neanderthal brains. Which is fucked up. That's fucked up. But it makes sense. You know, I mean, we know the Donner Party, they fucking ate each other, and they knew each other, and they ate each other.
How about that movie Alive?
Yeah.
Plane that went down in Argentina.
Yeah. Dude, you get hungry. You do whatever the fuck you gotta do to stay alive.
Bro, imagine if we go down the plane, everybody start looking at me and shit like that. Joe, you got some good ribs.
I wonder how long it takes. How many days of no food does it take before you start looking at other dudes and like, damn.
Yeah.
Like his shoulder starts looking good.
Well, it's also like if you were with your friend and you were like trapped somewhere, you would have to think like, okay, if I eat this dude, I have to live with that for the rest of my life. Like even if you guys drew straws, like you said, okay, one of us is gonna live, one of us is gonna die. If I come up short, I'm jumping off this fucking cliff. You climb down the bottom and eat me. Like you make an agreement, like with someone who's so gangster they actually follow through that. Some Matt Brown type character, some Matt Brown type character, right? So if you did do that, like you probably were gonna die anyway, eventually. Like on your way, you'd be so ridden with guilt. And even if you made it, even if you made it home, you'd still be thinking you'd be fucked for the rest of your life. Like, what kind of a life do you even have now that you ate your buddy?
That'd be a good time to know jiu-jitsu, right? In a plane crash and you're trying to survive up in the mountains and there's 20 people. After a while, you just put a little...
Nah, you'd be weak. You can't do no fucking jiu-jitsu if you ain't eating.
Hey, don't they say after 21 days without foods, when you start getting fucked up, that's that naked and afraid shit. 3 days with water, 21 without food, right?
Yeah, well, you're fucked up pretty much right away, but your body goes into a state of ketosis and it eats off as much fat as you have. The more fat you have, the better. You know, we don't think about that with our carbohydrate-rich diets. Look at this. What are you showing me, Jamie? Survival is the last resort. In case of one group, adrift in a lifeboat, 116 passengers, 116 days passed without food before the party turned to eating human flesh. In most cases, anything even remotely resembling food was first eaten. Dogs, candles, leather, shoes, and blankets are all consumed first before cannibalism becomes the only recourse for survival.
Leather, shoes? They eat shoes and blankets?
Yeah,
They fucking eat it? Oh,
Jesus. That's dark.
What you do is you rear naked choke one dude and you say, hey, look, fucking had a heart attack. And then you always have another body and you're in charge of that body.
Yeah,
and
but
you keep telling people to fuck.
If you choke him out, his body goes into fucking, then the meat's gonna be tough. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you shoot a deer the wrong way. So you gotta let him die of natural causes, then the meat's tender. Then you cut a little slice off a leg, and you fucking... You gotta wait. So it's like I'm aging him.
You gotta age meat?
You gotta beat the...
You thought you were gonna kill this guy. No, I'm killing him with kindness.
Yeah, you gotta kill him with kindness, because if you stab him, then the meat is gaming.
Gaming.
Now, bro, my buddy called me. Some guy go see you in Colorado. He invented a bullet. And as soon as it hits the duck, it has marinated in it.
What?
Have you heard about this shit? Or a fucking arrow, I swear to God.
It has a marinade?
Something
like teriyaki in it?
Something for duck. That when you shoot the duck, as soon as you hit it, the marination goes in it. I swear to God.
That's so ridiculous.
Yeah, something crazy.
I don't think that would
And
work.
he hit me up, and I go, he's in Denver this weekend. Go see him.
That guy might be nuts.
Marination goes bad.
But the thing about marinade is,
rotten.
yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know what the fuck it was. Marinated or salt.
You gotta keep the bullets
But
in the
marinade,
freezer.
salt and pepper's here, and we're in a fix.
You gotta keep the bullets in the freezer, I think.
God, it sounds like a bad business plan, though, Joey, huh?
It sounds like a dude is high on meth and comes up with a wacky idea that's not gonna sell.
Come on, Rogan, I got these teriyaki bullets, bro.
That's what you have to do. Shit, you're gonna try cannibalism. Shoot him with a teriyaki bullet.
But marinade is like, if you marinate a steak, you need like a pan, you fill it up with marinade, and you lay it in there, and the idea is it slowly works its way into the muscle, soaks in over like a day or two.
Well, let's say you shoot the duck, he's up in the air, he falls. By the time you get to him, 2 days later.
2 days later?
Let me get that spray, though. Let's get the party started.
You guys see that?
The party started. That's a great
Tony Henderson or Ben Henderson?
Well, your guy.
Oh, Tony Ferguson.
Tony Henderson. I always get confused. I did about 19 sprays.
Did you really? He's been taking them nonstop.
How many sprays did you take?
You don't mean no.
Probably 12?
It's the Lord's Day. We got nowhere to be and nothing to do. What the fuck?
Wow, that spray scares me.
Oh, it's tremendous. I wrote them an email. They wrote me back. They're nice people. I gotta go up to the stop, get some more from them. But
Some strong shit, huh?
listen, man, you guys are talking about we need $4 billion, we need fights. This is it. These are all the fights I'm gonna have to do now.
So you think they say fuck weight classes and just make it the
Not
biggest
fuck
fight?
weight classes. Everybody has to respect the weight classes, but go up if you want to go up. If you think you can run with it, run with it. You got to convince Dana. The same way Connor convinced Dana.
Have some jambos. Have some of those if you're brave.
What are these?
Exactly.
I can't see without my glasses. Read it.
Jambos. That's fucking super powerful edible.
It's a 2 cookie dough truffles.
Yeah.
Hey, gluten free, Joe.
Gluten free. Get in there. Take it.
I can go hang out with my faggy friends.
Hey, easy.
And hang out.
Go find that guy who's gonna suck your dick, though.
Yeah.
Take a smell of that. organic. He makes them with honey. They're so good.
How many?
It tastes good.
What's the strength?
Depth. All the above. Straight to the end of the earth.
For sure it doesn't say.
It tastes like dick.
Tastes like dick? Why does it taste like dick? Too organic for you? Joey's used to that processed sugar.
It doesn't say how much is in here.
Exactly.
He meant it as a compliment.
I didn't want you to know.
It says eat a truffle and you need a boost of energy.
What kind of
I don't
energy
know
you
about
got?
that.
What does it say about milligrams THC?
It doesn't say it.
Interesting.
I feel like that's something you need to know. Right? I feel like that's important on here.
This one says 25 milligrams. Maybe I gave you the wrong one. This is pretty light. 25 is not that bad for a guy like you. That's nothing.
25 milligrams.
That's a waste of your time.
I ate 1,200 last week.
God damn.
This one's 100, but I think there's two of them.
There's this new edible called Moon.
So this is 200 if you eat two of them.
Listen, there's a thing called Moon. Okay? It's a chocolate bar. It's $10 fucking dollars. $10 called Moon. I've eaten them twice. How long you know me?
Long time.
20 years.
Both times the next day I could not go to jiu-jitsu.
Damn.
Too much. I didn't do much the next day.
They're that strong?
What'd you do?
I ate the whole bar.
And then what happened?
Dog, you gotta see pictures of it.
How many milligrams is it?
250, but they're lying to you. They're definitely lying to you, which I like. I like being lied to. Because I don't want to know what I'm eating. Bro, I saw pictures of me. It's like I got hit by Nunez. Both eyes.
There it is.
That
That's
pocket
it.
fudge, that
Rocket fudge.
that shit will fucking kill you. Here's the beauty that you go into these
$12.
places and they have all these $40 edibles and they have all these 10, this is 10 fucking dollars. You eat a half of that thing and you'll be drooling. And I got a better one.
I don't want to drool.
Listen to me. There's one called Cushy. They have 50 milligram, 100, and they have knockout. And the back, listen to me. It says it will activate in 60 minutes guaranteed, okay? Here's the thing about
Give it to Jamie.
Jamie, it comes in a...
Look at that.
right
Cushy
there.
punch.
That's super potent. The fucking... what is it? Not the recovery one, but they've got one that is so fucking strong, and I call it transmission fluid. Because when you open it up, it comes like you ever go eat breakfast, the butter packages?
Yeah.
You have to rip them open and stick the knife in there. Comes in one of those, and they chop it in fours for you. Okay. Me, I'm a gavone. I ate the whole, but when you peel the top, and you smell it, it's like you're walking into a transmission shop. Like that's exactly where is it? Not the hybrid, not the end. That's all for pussy.
TKO.
TKO, bitch. That's all for pussy. Transmission fluid. Oh my God.
Super potent gummy formula.
Best for high tolerance users.
High tolerance user.
God darn.
Oh man, it's a weird time because it's all legal now. Now that it's legal, you're gonna see what these dudes can do. Because they're gonna have to be held back though, because I think there's regulations on the potency of edibles now.
Is there?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you just had to let people know what's in them.
I think it's 10.
10.
Yeah, so you're gonna each one will be 10. Like in Denver, they were selling these like containers of 10. There's 100 milligrams, and they were these gumdrops, and each one of them is 10. They're pretty consistent, but not totally consistent. Like I ate one, I was like, yeah, it feels like 10, and then I ate another one that felt like 40 or 50. I was like, ooh, this one.
No, they don't have the real numbers. Not if you eat. I'll bring that cushion to you. And I'll make you eat the whole thing. You'll go Joey.
That's the case often, though. I mean, like, it's hard to get real accurate testing, and then also like who's doing the actual making and
where
blending.
they're making it.
Yeah, how
exact measurements.
Well, like tomorrow, I pick up my shipment of Anarchy edibles. Those are my home runs.
my shipment.
Oh, every Monday I
They
meet
don't
them.
get it delivered?
pallet.
Yeah, I meet
Pulls
them
up
every,
at the
I meet them
UFC.
every Monday before jiu-jitsu, about 10:45. It gives me 100, 200 milligrams, 100 red ones, a couple brownies. I give the brownies away to my friends. And I keep those for the podcast when I fly and shit like that. But then you get used to the same strain. It's like marijuana. You smoke the same joint for 3 days, it's not gonna get you as high as the first day because your tolerance builds to that strain. So I mix and match, bitch. And the only ones that are allowed in Mr. Uncle Joey's neighborhood, Cushy, the TKO, brilliant. Fucking brilliant. But that new Rocket Pocket, that Rocket Chocolate, that shit, dog. Twice I've eaten them already. And I'm telling you, the next day, I get up, I take the baby to school, I ride a little bit, and by 10:30, there ain't nothing going on. I gotta go right back to bed for 4 or 5 hours, dog. Fucked up the next day.
There's gonna be a time in our lifetimes where they start passing medical psilocybin. It's gonna happen. And when they have medical psilocybin, eventually they're gonna go with recreational psilocybin. And when they go with recreational psilocybin, we're gonna see a different world. It's gonna be a different fucking world. But the same benefits that you're seeing with marijuana, the difference being that marijuana, at least when you're smoking it, it's easier to regulate. The experience isn't so world changing and dissolving. But we're gonna have freedom. It's not here yet, but it's here now for pot in a way that's never been before.
Do you think once a big pharma goes 100% in on cannabis, what kind of things do you think they'll do to squeeze out the small guys? Because that, you know what I mean?
They've already done it. They
can
tried
make
to do it in Ohio.
regulation. They can make it. Okay, now it's legal, but we're the only ones that could sell it.
Well, that's what they did, Jamie.
You know what I mean? You can't sell it if you're on your own.
What was that deal in Ohio, Jamie?
Hey, that seems like what's going to happen eventually.
The big businesses get
Yeah,
involved.
they're going to squeeze everybody out. They're going to pass regulations.
Jamie?
Yeah, they were trying to like lock down. There was like I think it was like 4 companies that would have been able to grow, and no one else would be able to grow or sell. I think it was in perpetuity, like forever. And
It just seems like that's what we're going to deal with. I mean, can people like a regular person?
There's money involved.
Like regular people, can they make can they start their own cigarette companies?
Exactly.
Can they do that?
Right. It's a good question.
You can't get into the cigarette company.
No.
I think they I don't know. I don't know anything about it, but I don't hear about people making their own cigarettes.
You make your own wine.
You can make your own cigarettes if you buy your own tobacco and you can roll your own. But as far as like going into large scale production, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
the thing about the marijuana thing is like you already know how easy it is to grow, you fucks. You know, the fact that they try to lock it down and make it so only a few companies can grow it, make it legal, but only a few people can profit off it. That's crazy.
And then they make it so goddamn cheap that you growing it yourself and trying to sell it yourself it doesn't become an option anymore. They're not, people just say fuck it, you know, they're just gonna get cheap ass weed at the liquor store, at the gas station. They're just, after a generation or two, people forget it. It'll be like a connoisseur thing, you know?
You know that in the fucking 70s, 60 Minutes did a show one time, and they showed that already in the 70s, the cigarette companies already had farms set up. They were already working on the packaging.
Oh, yeah.
In the 70s, they were already trying to legalize it. The cigarette companies were already in on it. Right now, we don't think all these fucking cigarette companies are setting up that Kentucky. What's that weed from Kentucky that's really good? Kentucky, they have a weed in Kentucky, like Alaska has, like Matt Nuther, Thunderfuck. Kentucky has like that bluegrass.
Kentucky
bluegrass. Up there. I went up there once, somebody brought me that weed. They're gonna package all those the same way they package
Acapulco Gold. Remember that?
Gold. And
You think there'll be a Marlboro cannabis?
Yeah,
cigarette?
they're already getting involved. I got a friend. We have a mutual friend. I won't say his name, but he's in the marijuana business. and
Brian
he-
Cowan?
No, I wish. Be awesome. But he was saying that's the issue, is that those big cigarette companies are buying up so much shit, they're making it hard for other people to get involved in.
Yeah,
like
that's
other
just the way
small
it goes.
businesses. Yeah,
it's
they already have their hands
anytime
in it.
there's
for sure.
something that's selling like hotcakes, eventually the small man gets cut out, right?
Yeah,
That's the way it works.
happens a lot. Certainly happens a lot. Whenever there's
That's with anything, though, right?
regulations where they can profit and they can use their influence and fuck over people that also could. The problem with pot is it's so goddamn easy to grow that if they don't do that, anybody can step in. But what they were trying to do in Ohio, lock it down for perpetuity, forever. You know, these one companies could be the only ones. They're setting up monarchies.
Yeah,
that's
that's
scary.
coming though. That's not. We haven't heard the end of that shit. No, that's coming.
Well, it's going to be interesting when Trump's the president now. See where they go with all this, because that Jeff Sessions guy that he's bringing in, that guy hates pot.
They're not going to let these hippies make millions of dollars. That's only going to last. These are going to be considered the good old days. They're going to wish it was never legal.
Who knows? We're going to find out. It's going to be interesting. Trump has said that he's going to leave it up to the states, but presidents always say shit that they don't do. I mean, Obama was going to close down Guantanamo Bay. That motherfucker's still open 8 years later.
The objects
He
that
never
you
even made
need
an
for this
attempt at it.
quest are
I think sometimes they say that stuff, they don't
nearby.
realize how much work goes into it, right?
Have a good look.
Well, I think they say that, and then they get
Look
into
high.
office, and then they get handed some dossiers and some
medium.
fucking briefings, and they
They're
understand like
usually
what.
hiding
This
yeah.
is why we haven't done this.
Like, look, I know you were
before,
saying you're going to
Yes.
close down Guantanamo Bay because it helped your campaign, but we're going to get you in here and show you what the fuck's
I
going
think
on.
all those guys, they didn't sit them down. They knew that shit. way before. They knew what they were getting into.
Maybe.
It's the only reason they were allowed to rise so high.
I think they say a bunch of shit to get into office. They say
You
whatever
have
the
to.
fuck.
No, for sure. They lie their ass off. Like everything that comes out of Hillary's mouth. I mean,
Do you watch
it's
House
so
of Cards?
clear. It was like George W. Bush. Like everything that George W. Bush says when he talks.
God damn it, we got into conspiracy.
If your bullshit meter doesn't go off, right?
Oh, he didn't even get to the part. Tell him about Edmund, the CIA.
No.
We were talking about yesterday.
Tell about Edmund.
Edmund's the CIA, dog. I'm telling you right now.
Maybe that's the key.
And you know that porn used to beat all of them put together. NBA, NFL, all of it. And
CBS, NBC, and ABC as well.
And all the major movies. All together. Dwarfed by porn.
And now it's gone.
Now it's all gone. I mean, the AVN Awards at its height, I hosted it when there was 7,000 people in the audience on Showtime. Now it's like 200 losers in a room with an open mic or hosting it. Yeah, it's over.
Whoa.
I shouldn't say that. I don't want to disparage it. Let's just say it's smaller than it used to be.
I just think they're doing awesome craft work now. Now they're doing it for the love of the art.
I think so.
It's different.
I mean, for me, it's all about Japanese hidden camera massage porn.
That's your shit?
Yeah, because it's real. I gotta see shit that's real. Casting couch, guarantee that a lot of that is real.
That's what you like?
I like
to
see
real nerves.
I want to see the girl a little bit nervous, a little confused. I want to see the transition in her eyes from I'm auditioning for a pajama commercial to I'm taking it hard on camera. I don't want to see two people that are, too into it. I want to see somebody get taken for a ride.
Somebody just get hoodwinked?
Yeah, like the massage thing. They're getting a regular massage from a woman, and it's a good massage. You can tell that these are like practice masseuses, and then all of a sudden they just they're on their stomach, and they get up in that ass crack a little bit, and they get down in the valley, and you can see, and they've got a camera on the woman's face, and above, and below, and usually somewhere else, and they keep it on the face so you can see the eyes open and kind of look around, and I'm telling you, fucking Mia Farrow, who's a great actress, Jane Fonda couldn't portray the
How about Faye Dunaway?
Faye Dunaway could not portray the subtle nuances of coming around to being suddenly fingered by a masseuse.
Wow. So you think it's real?
I defy anybody. I will send you clips that are undeniable.
I think you should take that and run with it. Just don't look to anything that points to the contrary.
Right. Why would I?
Why would you?
What is
It's
life?
not empowering.
Life is perception. It's not reality.
It's not empowering to think that that's staged and you're just being tricked by some unenthusiastic people that need the money. No, you want to think that this is a real massage.
Absolutely real.
That guy's fingering her.
Completely.
And she just
Woman's
grabs his
fingering her.
Dick. Oh, woman.
No, I don't watch those.
You don't watch it?
Because that seems
rapey.
Rapey.
But
when
if
it's
the guy's laying down, the girl just starts sucking his dick.
Nah,
What if he
it's
gets a
rapey.
massage from a girl?
Yeah.
The guy gets a massage from a girl and she just starts blowing him?
Well, a woman is pleasuring another woman.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
you like it?
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
I
Okay.
enjoy it.
You
I
won't
like
any
to see
dicks.
everyone had a good day.
Everybody had a good day.
The masseuse is getting paid handsomely. She knows she's on camera.
Plus they're lesbians.
I think most women are. They don't get a chance to explore it as much.
Wow, strong words.
Throw some hidden cameras in there. We see what really happens.
I can't believe you're saying that.
I believe that all women have the propensity for lesbianism because it's soft. They're being touched in a gentle way.
Not the way I do it. I do my lesbian stuff. Lesbian biker style.
Yeah.
That's my style.
A lot of
fucking.
hardware.
What style of fucking do you employ? I'm like a lesbian biker. That's my shit. I'm like how a lesbian would fuck you if she was mad with a strap on.
Yeah.
She was mad. Angry, boots on. You were flirting with a guy at the pizza font. She was fucking out of you, bitch.
You were
wanna
talking to
fuck
the
him, don't
enemy.
you? Yeah. She's got like a strap on with like a dog collar with those little buttons, those little silver snaps. Pops in place. Pop,
Yeah.
pop.
Yeah.
Big green dick. That's what I think.
Yeah.
She probably heats it up in the water, just like that chicken cutlet trick I told you earlier.
I can't wait to get home. Honey, what do we have for dinner tonight?
people get better quick too. That's the other weird thing about this world. The MMA world is changing so fast. The level of athlete is moving in such a fast direction. These guys keep getting better and better and better and better and better, and they're all getting better. So it's hard to tell. But when you compare like a top level athlete of today versus a top level athlete of 20 years ago, that's when you see these stark, gigantic differences. When the UFC started in '93 in comparison to 2016, just stark, crazy differences.
But you're not going to see guys stay at the top as long, you think?
Well, some guys can, or some girls can, depending on how good they are. Some people just have massive advantages that are very difficult to overcome, like Anderson Silva when he was in his prime. Anderson Silva had a massive advantage in timing and speed and creativity and striking, whereas he could defend himself on the ground. He was difficult to take down, and when he got him down, he's pretty good defensively with his guard, but standing up, he's a goddamn genius. He was a virtuoso, and he would just move on you and do weird shit to you, and then blam! Catch you with a front kick to the face or something, and he would time you, figure you out, find your distance, and then land some crazy shit on you and fuck you up. He did it to so many people. So when a guy like that is at the top, he's so truly exceptional at one particular aspect of the game. A lot of times they can go on a good run. So it's hard. It's hard for people to go on a run. Like Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson's probably on the longest run as a champion now, I think. Is he on the longest run? The most wins as a champion. I think he might be right up there with Anderson in the most wins. And then maybe John Jones is in there too.
What weight is he?
He's the smallest guy. He's 125. He's the flyweight champion. But in my opinion, he's the best pound for pound guy. Because if you look at he's definitely smaller than the other guys. He can move differently because he's not so weighed down by gravity. So it's very difficult to look at his movements and say, well, you could compare him to a guy like Fabricio Verdum, who's 240 pounds. Fabricio's just more hampered down by gravity. His body just has to push around so much more. There's no way he can move with the kind of fluidity that a guy like Mighty Mouse can.
And what's the biggest guy that Mighty Mouse will fight?
So Anderson Silva, 10-fight win streak, and Demetrius Johnson is at 8, right below George St. Pierre, which is at 9.
He's at 9 now. I think this is as of July.
Oh, okay. So Demetrius defended his title again recently, so he's tied with George St. Pierre for second place. So that's, like a guy like Anderson, perfect example. Super tough. John Jones, another one, perfect example. John Jones is a ridiculously talented athlete. And so when you have these really, really talented guys, extreme outliers, they tend to be able to go on rolls. Also because when you fight them, it's terrifying. Because you're stepping in there with the alpha. You're stepping in there with Anderson Silva in his prime, and he bows to you, and you're like, oh my God, what the fuck have I got myself into?
Yeah.
You can pump yourself up for it and get yourself thinking I'm the fucking man now. But when you're actually across the street from the man and you're looking at each other eye to eye and you realize that's Anderson motherfucking Silva.
Yeah.
I'm about to step into the ring, step into the octagon rather, with the best ever.
You're doing a handstand on the edge of a tall building.
So it's hard for them to get over that. It takes a super strong mind just to be able to fight at your best. Whether or not your best is even good enough, that's another aspect of the fight. Whether or not your best is good enough is really secondary, because you're not going to be able to be at your best. You're going to be so freaked out and so fucking nervous. Your timing's going to be off. Your adrenaline is going to be fucking pumping through your veins. You might get an adrenaline dump, so you might tire out in the second round. You got to manage your resources. You got to manage your anxiety, and you're facing a goddamn ninja, like a real live superhero character.
And he's seeing all of those weaknesses in you.
He sees everything. He sees everything too when you start moving around. When you would move around with him, he would move around with you, and he would see how you move, whether or not you move slow. He would take his time. He would take his time and then just open up on you. It's fascinating to watch him, because he would dissect guys. You'd see him dissecting guys. He'd be bouncing around and moving. He would change his footwork. He would throw a little fake your way and see how you react. You go, I could have hit you right there. Okay, let's see what's going on here. And then you do some stuff with him. He's like, no, not today. Not today was that. And you would see him doing all these calculations in his mind and setting up traps. And then somewhere in the second round, he would attack. And when he was in his prime, it was just stunning to behold. Here he is right now. Look at it. He's standing in front of this guy, hands down, and he just barely moves his head out of the way. He's just timing him, just trying to figure out, and then plop, pops him with a jab and drops him. I mean, you're watching all this in slow motion too, unfortunately, but this was when he fought Yushin Okami. I mean, he was just an assassin back then. He was so good. That's when he was the middleweight champion. and he was just lighting people up in there, man. If you
So
go
he'll
to,
let
go
a
to, like,
guy, he'll let a
Anderson
guy
Silva
get up
highlight
because he's
reel.
better on his feet.
I didn't give a fuck, dude. Go to Anderson Silva highlight reel. See if you can find it. He didn't give a fuck. If you were on your feet, like, you were gonna get knocked out against him in his prime. It was his attitude. He would stand with anybody. I mean, his stand-up was so exceptional.
But he's still fighting.
Yeah, he's still fighting, but he's 40 or 41 now. And that's the only fucking thing in the world that's undefeated for all the time, man. Just check this shit out. This is him when he was in his prime. He just slides out of the way and drops that dude with a punch. I mean, he just had a way of moving. Let's just see if you have like a highlight reel, not just this one fight. Oh, it's highlight tribute. Oh, okay, I see. But it's just the same fight a couple times in a row. This guy had a real good chance against him. Travis Luter. This is a bunch of people that he fought for showing. He was so goddamn good. That's Travis Luter caught in the triangle, getting elbowed in the head. He just was, at that time in particular, he was the next level of striking, because we had never seen anybody who had like real world-class striking skills in the middleweight division like Anderson did. He just had, especially in particular,
Well, his
MMA
feet
striking
are just
skills.
grounded. His balance is amazing.
Well, he was just exceptional, truly exceptional, and physically strong for sure. But the big thing about Anderson wasn't like how big he was; it was just how technical he was, and how brilliant his ability to figure guys out was. This was a guy he fought named Lee Murray. Lee Murray is a guy who put on the biggest bank robbery in the history of Great Britain. That guy stole hundreds of millions of dollars, allegedly, from a bank, and he's in jail, I think in Morocco now because of it. But he was an assassin too, and they two met up, and Anderson Silva lit him on fire.
Yeah.
Just fucked him up. Just stood right in front of him, leg kicked the shit out of him, beat his ass, took his best shots. He was so good.
So are you friends with Silva?
I know him, I see him. He doesn't speak English that good, but I always give him a hug when I see him. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
And again, he's the greatest of all time. If you're a fan of the sport, in my opinion, like that guy when he was in his, like whatever, there's like a few year period where someone can exist at the highest of RPMs. And when he was in the highest of RPMs, the argument is really between him and maybe Fedor Emelianenko, who fought in Pride. I think Fedor is a real possibility. Like I definitely could see the argument that he was number one instead of Anderson. But it's really like who the fuck knows. They fought in different organizations. They fought different people. You know, I think the talent level is probably a little bit better in the UFC, but it's arguable that it wasn't because, you know, he was fighting Krokop in his prime and Nogueira in his prime, and Fedor fought some of the all-time greats at their best and beat him. So it's arguable that he fought a tougher range of opponents. So maybe it's arguable that Fedor's accomplishments are more impressive because the opposition he fought was bigger, more dangerous. You know, he fought Krokop, and Krokop was just an assassin, smashing people, knocking everybody dead. And he walked them down and out-kickboxed them. Mostly. That's mostly what the fight was about.
Obama did it with Israel. I don't know why, but in his 11th hour, he has soured relations with Israel to the point where, you know, even though he's lame duck president on his way out, it was a destructive thing he did. I don't know if I disagree with it.
What did he do?
Well, the UN had a resolution that was saying that Israel has new developments in the West Bank, and which are illegal according to previous UN resolutions, and so I don't know what they're calling it, but it's illegal what they've done, and the U.S. signed on to it.
So they set up these settlements in Palestinian territory. Is that what it is?
Well, the disputed Palestinian territory.
And they just decided to start building there.
They've been building there for years, and they put up like 600 homes, but they're planning on putting up 5,000 in an area that, you know, peace. There is no peace over there, but what's keeping it from being an all-out war is that area that is supposed to be kept neutral for now, and now they're building on it.
Why would someone want to build? Are they running out of land? Like they can't build other places?
No, they don't recognize the Palestinians, and so they see that that's all their land still, and so they won't stop. They will continue building and pushing out. I mean, the tide has turned on Israel, from what I can tell, and I don't follow Israel very closely at all, except for when I hear people yelling about it at parties that I'm at, because I have friends that are like hardcore Zionists, and I have friends that are hardcore anti-Zionist, and they're totally rational people, and they can joke around about talking about fucking your mother and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as Israel comes up, shit gets real. And they talk about, you know, I think the tide has turned. There's a lot more people that are seeing Israel as a terrorist state.
Whoa. Wow.
They're very aggressive. Netanyahu is just he's a bull.
What's the right resolution? What's the right resolution? Because how much is in dispute? Like, how much territory?
I don't know. This seems like a small place, doesn't it?
It seems very, very small.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't Israel like the size of like Connecticut or some shit like that? Like, how big is it?
I don't think it's very big, but it's where it's located.
So let's find out. How big is Israel? It's just a hotly charged subject.
Yeah,
you know,
it is.
It's one of the most charged subjects in all.
Because you're talking about the Holocaust survivors, basically.
Yeah, and you're talking about people that are right next to each other with opposing ideologies and various reasons for being righteous.
Well, and Iran, looking at Israel
I
is.
corrected that.
I said it right? Is it Iran?
I think it's Iran.
Yeah. Saying that they don't have a right to exist and that they're gonna throw a nuclear bomb over there.
Did you see that? What is the guy from Pakistan? Who was it, Jamie, that got duped by a fake news story?
Jamie Masada?
No, not that guy. Badi.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
And the guy got duped by a fake news story, and said some inflammatory shit about causing a war. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's like, whoa, you guys got all up in arms about a fake story.
Yeah.
Like, what in the fuck is going on?
What do you think was the first fake news story? Because you go back to, I was thinking about what was an old fake news story was.
Fake news stories have probably been around for a long time.
Well, the Bible was a giant fake news story.
How dare you? They did their best. They did their best to remember the stories.
Find a good map. I think part of the problem is the arguments over the maps. And
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right. Does it say, like, I just want to know, like, I'm too stupid to know what that is, so why don't you, like, ask Google, compare it to a state. Because I think there's a simple comparison, I just don't remember what it is. It's like Connecticut or something like that. Or maybe Massachusetts. Size comparison map, Israel and USA. Anyway, what were we just
Israel
talking?
and USA size comparison. Israel and
Oh,
blue.
fake news. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's basically the size of New Jersey.
And New Jersey is building a lot of homes.
It looks a little bigger than New Jersey, but look at that. It fits in Lake Michigan. You can stick Israel in Lake Michigan. What the fuck? How big is Lake Michigan? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Isn't that insane?
So when you get to know these guys, like I'm sure you're more friendly with some than others, is that hard to affect the way you call the fights in terms of being critical?
It can be. I try not to make it, though. I try really hard to be as objective as possible about what I'm saying, and sometimes people get upset, like that I'm friends with, because I'm talking about things that they're doing wrong, or things that are going wrong for them. And so they'll think that I'm rooting against them, and I'm like, look, I'm not.
And they'll say something to you about it?
Yeah, I'll have conversations with them. I'm like, dude, I am not rooting against you. Like, this is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this. Like, I'm seeing, I know you're thinking that you're winning this part of the fight, or you're thinking that I'm being hypercritical, but I have to say it if I'm seeing it. And I try really hard to have a point. Like I'm not a critical person. I'm like mocking someone for no reason or they're talking in a negative way about their technique for no reason. It's only because it's not happening, and I want everybody to know what's going wrong.
You're pointing out the momentum of the fight.
And also I want to know what's going on that's wrong. Like so, because your job as a commentator is not just to say what's happening and talk about what's happening, but in MMA, it's also to explain things. Like I have to explain certain things, like that are critical in a fight. Like say if someone gets kicked in the leg really hard a few times, you see him start to limp on it. I have to point out that I see him limping. Now this is going to be a huge issue if he tries to shoot in or if he wants to move away. It's going to hinder his mobility. It's very important. So then the people at home, now they go, okay, well that makes sense. Oh yeah, look, that guy is limping. Oh shit, he got hit in that same spot again. Now he's on the ground again. Oh my God, he can't get up. Like I see it now. So you know patterns.
You're a storyteller.
Yes. You're also you're talking about a mathematical problem essentially, a problem that's being duked out. Like there's literally like a force problem. It's like this versus this, and you're trying to get there faster. You're trying to hit harder in the better positions. So like the geometry of the human body, you're trying to accelerate towards the vulnerable areas and do it better. So what are the best ways to do that? And then there's a science and art behind doing it in the best way. And it's my job to explain that science and art to the best I can live in motion while it's all happening. I can't be biased. I try very hard to not be, because it's really important that I point out both sides. And sometimes people accuse you of it, and I swear to God, if you do feel that I'm doing it, it is absolutely not intentional. I try very hard to try to be as balanced and unbiased as I can while explaining exactly what I see playing out. Even with my friends. Like I'll see my friend getting fucked up. And I'm like, you can't drop that right hand. He's dropping that right hand, the guy's stepping to the right, and he's gonna catch him. And then boom, when they catch him, I'm like, fuck. Like you see it happening sometimes before they can see it.
Does that ever affect how close you let yourself get to a fighter?
No, I respect them all very deeply, and I'm really good friends with a lot of them, and I want the best for all of them. And that sounds contradictory. It sounds like impossible. Like someone will think like if they fight that person and they hate that person and you like that person but you like them, like you're a traitor or something, or like why? How can you talk to that person? How can you talk to him? He's my mortal enemy. But look, man, I hate the fact that you guys are enemies. I don't know how much of it's real, how much of it you're doing for press, but I'm not happy with it. But I like the guy. He's a good guy. Like I can be friends with somebody that you're not friends with. Like if you have some guy that you don't like, you would have to have a good reason. Like somebody fucked you over. It couldn't be like a competitive reason, like two guys who fought and they're bitter about it. You know what I mean? Like if it was like if you told me about some guy who fucked you over in a business deal or something like that, I'd be like, oh well, fuck that guy. That guy did something wrong. But if it's just a competitor, like that fucking guy, I tried to follow him in Miami and I bombed. Fuck him. Like, oh, that guy kicked your ass. And that's with a lot of fighters. They develop these like deeply sort of conflicting relationships with fellow fighters. Like you can't get too close to them because then you're gonna have to fight them. Or some guys don't give a fuck. Some guys become friends with guys, then wind up fighting them.
Oh yeah. Is there any stories of that happening?
A lot of guys have done that. A lot of guys, they started out friends, and then because they had to fight each other, like John Jones and Rashad Evans, that was a big story. Like Rashad Evans was like John Jones' bigger, older brother, and they were real close. And then when John fought for the title, he fought for the title because Rashad was injured, and John won the title. John stepped in on short notice, won the title, and then it became a possibility of one day Rashad fighting John for the title. And then they wound up getting like super bitter about it and not liking each other anymore. It's really, really interesting to watch. But that's just one example. There's a lot of guys who are close guys. They're buddies with each other, and they get in there and they beat the fuck out of each other.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
How do you not get close? It's like with comedians. You talk about hanging out at the store. It's like I can't talk. Like somebody was telling me about like he hates being called a legend.
Who said that?
I'm not gonna say who.
Is he a legend?
Yeah.
Oh. Don Gavin?
No, I mean, and the point was
you don't
like.
Want to tell me?
Well, I don't
Nobody
want
else is
to
gonna know. Just tell me.
It was Ron White.
Oh.
And he is. He's a legend.
He's a legend.
But I think he got an intro of being a legend the other night. And he was saying to me, I fucking hate that because, you know, I'm in here scrapping like everybody else. You know, these lineups are killed. Like the lineup the other night was like, it was like D'Elia and you and him and Jesselnick and Spade.
Yeah.
And it's like on any given night, you don't want to be called a legend because that just immediately puts you on a shelf instead of in the fight. And so anyway, he said that to me, and the reason I want to say it is I can see somebody taking that out of context and going like, oh, you hate being called a legend. But it's like I've been called that by young comics. And it's like,
The objects that
don't
you
call
need for
me
this
a fucking
quest
legend
are
because
definitely
first of all, I didn't earn it.
nearby.
Second of all, like I'm
Have a
still
good
playing
look
the
for them.
game. I'm still
Look
on
high.
the roster here.
Look low.
So,
You have to be.
but I was just
Look
thinking, like, you
medium.
can't have that conversation with somebody
They're
who's not
usually hiding
doing what
in
we
plain
do,
sight.
because it would almost sound like you're full of yourself. And the same thing with fighters. There's probably things that they can only talk to each other about that they could never talk to straight people about because they just haven't been there.
Oh, for sure.
So how do you not get close to other fighters that you might have to fight one day?
Especially when there's a lot of guys in the same weight in the same camp, which is very beneficial. Because if you get a bunch of like really good guys, like Team Alpha Male is a perfect example of that. There's all these guys that are around the 135 to 155 pound weight class. Bunch of like really elite guys, and 125 even. But a lot of elite guys in the lower weight classes, and they all train together, but they never fight each other.
Yeah.
But then they had a big falling out because T.J. Dillashaw won the title, and then he left Team Alpha Male and went to Denver, and now they don't like each other. Like there's so much camaraderie and teams, and like there's this weird sort of tribal bond that goes with teams. You know, the teams that compete against other teams.
They're like gangs.
In a lot of ways. But you know, they're not criminals. They're just a bunch of dudes that are bonded together, and women too. There's a lot of fucking serious hardcore women in the sport now. Like there's like Amanda Nunes, the world champion. She's the first openly gay MMA fighter. She's a champion, rather. First openly gay MMA champion. And she's the women's 135 pound fighter. She's the one who's going to fight Ronda Rousey.
Where's she from?
Just starting
She's from Brazil. She lives in Florida. She
adventure.
trains at American Top Team. It's like
Infinite worlds
the big
ahead.
camp. It's like there's a few big camps all throughout the world, but when it comes to like elite level MMA fighters, like who's got the biggest amount of them, it's between Jackson's
See
and
how
Albuquerque,
these
New Mexico,
magicians
and
fabric use their creative
Miami,
tools.
American Top Team. They just have so many fucking elite
Summoning
fighters.
creatures.
Must be tough for her to train with people if she's
Conjuring
that good. Find somebody who's a peer.
No, she fucking fights with dudes. That's what
Oh, she does.
Spars with dudes, I'm sure. A lot of them do. Almost all women spar with dudes, at least somewhat. And that's most of the dudes, at least in high-level camps, are very respectful. Like they're not going to try to hurt women. The best people in the best camps now realize the damage that you take in sparring. It's like a frequent conversation now. It's like to not spar hard. Like sparring should almost be like technical and playing and like very light, so you're not damaging your body. You're not taking unnecessary shots.
You're not
to the
kicking
head.
people to the leg.
Well, you kick them a little bit in the leg, it's not bad. But the problem is the head. That's the real problem. You know, and even kicking them in the leg, there's no reason to kick someone full blast. You know, you kick the bag full blast. You don't need to kick a person full blast. And so these big teams, the more talent you get in like one weight class, the more you get a bunch of sharks circling the same seal or whatever the fuck, whatever the analogy you'd want. Like you get better, more competition, you get better interaction. As long as there's a good camaraderie between all the fighters, but it's so hard to maintain. They almost always wind up getting mad at each other. Somebody fucking hits somebody after practice, and somebody, you know, it's always something where they're gonna have to fight some days. They talk shit to each other, and
Well, also, I mean, I'm sure you know a lot more about this than I do, but the people that would be drawn to a sport like this might be contentious people. They might be people that have pretty good-sized egos and are maybe confrontational, and so those people aren't going to necessarily always interact that well with others.
quite a few of them for sure. But you'd be amazed. It's one of the more fascinating things about MMA. You'd be amazed at how many college-educated, very reasonable, rational people just view it as the ultimate extreme challenge, whether it be, you know, riding a fucking snowboard up the top of a mountain, you get dropped off in a helicopter, and you go down the side of a cliff.
Nearby.
Those kind of people.
Yeah.
Like those kind of extreme athlete people that might have gotten into BMX riding, or might have gotten into a lot of things that we don't think of as being like
They're usually
violent,
hiding in
aggressive,
plain sight.
but they're ultra risk-taking sports. and the reward that comes from doing like a flip when you're, you know, BMX jumping and you flip through the air and land on your feet, like that's a I'm cheating death thing. And those same people, I think, a lot of like elite ones are getting interested in possibly competing in MMA and taking that risk and challenging themselves in that way. So you're seeing a lot of like very smart people, man. And I think that at the highest level, you have to be smart. Like you talk to a guy like John Jones, he might make some poor decisions in his life because he parties a lot and he's kind of crazy, but he's very smart. When you talk to him and you look in his eyes, you know, whether or not he has access to the same vocabulary as Christopher Hitchens did, no, maybe not, but he's a fucking genius in fighting. He knows how to figure people out. He knows how to fight under pressure as good as anybody alive. And when you talk to him, he's very engaging. He's not in any way stupid. He's a very smart guy. He has his interests and his focus, and if his focus and his interests were in intellectual pursuits, if that was really what stimulated him and made him want to to follow through on something like that, I'm sure he'd be really good in that too.
Yeah.
I would think it's really easy for people to sort of discredit someone in someone's intellectual capacity just because they're a fighter.
I wasn't talking about intellect. I was just talking about in terms of alpha status, that it is hard to put a bunch of alpha people near each other without a little bit of, banging elbows.
Yes, but my point is that less than you would think it would be. Much more camaraderie and much more social, like very reasonable interaction, gentleman interaction than you would imagine.
Yeah.
There's much more of that.
Yeah.
But the problem is a guy like Conor McGregor comes along and he talks mad shit and he lights the world on fire. And everybody wants to talk shit now. And I get it. I mean, it sells pay-per-view. It's good for the sport. It's
They
fun
make
to
more
watch.
money if they talk shit, right?
Dude, they just released this thing on, someone did it on how much Conor McGregor, he sold more pay-per-views in a year than the entire roster combined.
Wow.
You compare all the other fights of like, I forget how it was done, but Brendan Schaub sent it to me. Did he send it to you, Jamie?
No, but I saw it. I'll try to find it.
And what kind of money are we talking about?
I don't know what he gets paid. I don't understand. I don't know how much he gets per pay-per-view. But look at this: the entire roster drew 3.3 to 3.2 million in 2014. Conor McGregor drew double that on his own in 12 months. While GSP holds the record for the most pay-per-view buys in total, because he had a lot of pay-per-views more than Conor. Conor holds basically every other pay-per-view record. McGregor has drawn an insane 6.85 million buys in just 15 months. Holy shit. Wow. He drew twice as many buys in 1 year than the entire UFC roster in 2014. Just his fights.
So where's, what's he making?
Well, that's a good question. Like, he was saying recently that he wouldn't fight unless it's, actually, Nate Diaz was saying that he wouldn't fight, rather, who was his opponent in the last, not this last fight, which was Eddie Alvarez, but the fight before that. There was a rematch with Nate. Nate beat him in the first fight, and then it was a real close fight in the second fight, and Conor won a decision. And Nate's saying that he won't fight unless he gets $20 million. And a lot of people say, well, that's too much. He's not going to get paid that. I don't know how much money is there. Like, let's look at it this way.
Who you mean, 20 million in purse or in endorsements or in?
Well, it's all going to be purse. But
and pay-per-view is separate than purse.
Right. Well, no. Pay-per-view is based on purse. Or purse is based on pay-per-view.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
Like you get points, or you get a piece of the action, or you can get a guarantee, right? So if it's going to be a guarantee, like say if that's what he said, and obviously I'm not a mathematician, we know this, right? So if he said $20 million, that's what he wants to fight for. If pay-per-view is what, $60? How much does it cost? Let's say it's 60, and let's say they sell 1 million pay-per-views, which is an excellent number. That's $60 million, right? Okay, so $60 million, he wants a third of that right off the top. And then you got to think, well, if he's going to fight Conor, Conor's going to take a third of that too, right? At least. He's not going to take less than Nate. What's that? Nate, and then he's going to fight Conor. So if he's going to fight Conor, Conor's going to take probably even more than that, right? So it's 20 and what, 25? So there's less for the UFC than those two guys? Well, that's how it is in boxing. That's how it is in, like, if you look at, like, the purses for, like, a lot of boxing matches. The way they have it described is, like, the big guys, like Floyd Mayweather, get a lion's share of the purse. And then everybody else gets less, including the promoters. Like,
And then you got ticket sales, which is probably just a couple million.
The ticket sales are probably pretty substantial, depending on where it is. If it's
205, it was 17.7 million.
So there you go, 17.7 million in Madison Square Garden, right? And then what about that giant Vegas place? That the T-Mobile Arena in Vegas? That's a lot more people. When that sells out, what is
Wait,
that?
you're saying 17 million for one fight?
For one night.
In ticket sales?
Madison Square Garden.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So.
Then you got merchandise.
Right, but that's theirs, right? Because it's about the UFC. It's not about the fighter.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think. I mean, maybe if the fighter's if they're selling Conor McGregor merchandise, that's a different story. Yeah, then they should definitely get a giant chunk of that. I don't know how much they get.
And then this isn't including sponsorships.
Well, there's no sponsors, right? The UFC has some sponsors in the Octagon. I mean, they have some movie sponsors and stuff, but as for the fighters, there's really no sponsors that they carry into the Octagon with them. The only sponsor is Reebok. And some people have a deal with Monster Energy drink. Again.
Yeah, see guys putting hats on after they win.
Not always in the UFC. Most
Okay.
likely in Bellator. Or unless they have a Monster Energy drink deal, which the UFC also has a deal with. But it's real weird. For the longest time they did. They had it all over their shorts. They would wear whatever they want. They would wear T-shirts coming into the Octagon based on. But then they signed this deal with Reebok, and a lot of people are upset about it. They have to wear Reebok stuff now.
Okay.
It's a hot point.
Sure, that's a
And,
lot of money.
Yeah, it is for a lot of fighters. For a lot of fighters, it's like it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, so it's in terms of like how much money is left then. Like how much does it cost to run a global organization like that? How much does it cost to keep the infrastructure alive? How much does it cost to upload everything to pay-per-view? How much does it cost to hire all these people? How much does it cost to put that production together?
Advertise.
Right. So if it's only $60 million and then $15 million from, obviously I don't know. I mean, it's got to be international shit too because they sell it internationally all over the world. I mean, the UFC's everywhere. So a big fight like Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor doesn't just sell in the United States, it sells everywhere. I don't know if that's all included. I don't know how they work that shit out. But my point is, when someone says he wants $20 million, that might make sense, or that might not make sense. Like, I don't know what the numbers are. And also, you got to pay taxes. Like, if you're making all that money, if you're bringing in all that money, you got to pay taxes on that money. Who pays the taxes? Does the UFC pay the taxes first and then pay the fighters out of what's left? Do they all act as private contractors? That's a good question, but I don't know. But as far as like how much money they make, I think for a guy like Conor McGregor, the correct answer would be a fuckload.
Yeah.
He's making fuckloads of
And
money.
what's that, 5 fights a year?
He's not fighting that often, but he's probably fought in the last 24 months. How many times has he fought in the last 24 months? He went on a crazy run, beat Aldo. He beat Dennis Seaver, Aldo, and then the Nate Diaz fight, Eddie Alvarez.
2015, so 3 times in 2015, 3 times in 2016.
Yeah, so that's about right. That's a lot of fighting.
So $50 million a year.
Every 4 months like that is very hard on your body. Very hard on your body.
Jesus.
Hard to do. But some guys like Cowboy Cerrone, he lives off that. That's what he loves.
Think about it if you break down the numbers, though, and granted, NFL or NBA has a lot more revenue coming in, but you're also paying, and NFL, you got what, 44 guys on the team?
It's interesting that you say that.
Trainers, all that fucking shit.
You should look at the number, put up the number of revenue, the amount of revenue that they bring in versus the UFC. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like the NFL's like 375 billion. The UFC is like 2.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference is fucking preposterous.
Yeah.
Like, find out there's a chart, like a graph that they can show you that somebody put together that shows you the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball, and MMA is like below hockey.
And you know that porn used to beat all of them put together. NBA, NFL, all of it. And
CBS, NBC, and ABC as well.
And all the major movies. All together. Dwarfed by porn. I just hate my voice. I sound like a woman.
You definitely don't sound like a woman.
Whenever I call for like tech support, they'll lead me through the first few steps, and then I'll be like, all right, and then I hit delete, and they'll be like, no, man, what you do is, and then it's like, it's too far into it for me to correct them because it feels I'm too embarrassed to correct them at that point. So then I just let them assume I'm a woman for the rest of the call. I mean, and it's weird because then you see what it's like to be treated like a woman. Like I find that they talk down to you more.
Well, like especially having tech support, right?
Oh fuck yeah! A chick on a computer? They treat you like you're a baby. And now is the screen blue? Take your little mouse.
Why is there a difference in like tech stuff? Like why are men more attracted to tech stuff?
Aren't we more mathematical than women?
Boy, that's a weird thing to say.
I mean, there's
I'm
right
not
and left side of the
mathematical
brain,
at all.
right?
I would say, yeah, men are much more mathematical than women, but I'm not mathematical even slightly. So what am I, a woman? Huh?
You just said that like you were gonna kick my
What am I, a
ass.
broad?
You know,
Yeah?
what am I,
Yeah?
a chick? What do I read? Fucking chick lit?
My fucking skirt?
I wish I was, man. They
Do
got it
you?
made right now. Women got it made.
How so?
Well, because there's this sort of like postmodern feminism coming back, where with the lean in and the like, women really are going to start getting. I think they're still making like 80 cents on a dollar.
Do you know that's all bullshit? I've heard you say that before, and I wanted to correct you.
Oh,
you know
yeah?
that's not true?
It's not?
It's not true. No. You know what that means? When they say women make 80 cents on the dollar, it means overall women make 80 cents compared to the dollar that men make, but not for the same jobs.
Right.
When women and men are making the same, when they're doing the same job, the problem with that statistic is it leads you to believe that a man and a woman are working alongside each other,
Right.
doing the exact same amount of work with the same amount of hours, but the woman makes less. It's not the case. In the same
Well,
jobs,
there's a lot of
it's very-
executives that have been found out to be. I know a couple that are executives that were doing the same job, leading the sales team and making less money.
Perhaps there's a few exceptions.
Right.
But for the most part, when you're talking about overall jobs, like it's pretty statistically proven
Right.
that like lawyers, doctors, like whatever the fuck the job is, when they're working side by side, there's very little disparity.
Yeah.
Very little.
Podcasting.
The thing is, women take time off for work, time off of work for maternal leave, of course,
right?
If they have babies, but also they tend to work less hours. Men tend to be more ambitious, more driven, work more hours, and they get paid more because of it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's one of those weird ones where everybody says it. Even fucking Obama said it. You know, the wage gap, the income gap. Like, what do you mean? Like, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
Because you're talking about it as if there's some sort of discrimination, when in fact there's a natural tendency that a lot of women have to choose different jobs. Like as far as like nursing, like overwhelmingly, it's predominantly women.
So you're saying if you take the total amount women make versus the total amount men make,
that's where the 80 cents on the
there's
dollar
a difference,
comes from.
but it's the job choices you're saying that are
Exactly.
different.
Job choices. Men are much more likely to die on the job.
Yeah.
Men are much more likely to take high-paying, high-risk jobs like mining, things along those lines.
Yeah.
So that's what that is.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird ones where you repeat it. A lot of people repeat it, and they think it's right. They think that men and women are working alongside each other, making the same amount of money.
Yeah.
The other thing about executives is, and this is something that no one wants to say because it sounds sexist, but it might be that the men are earning more money. Like, it might not just be that they're making more money. It might be their actual performance as an executive is better. It's entirely possible.
It is possible, but I can also see, like if I hired a man and a woman, I would pay the woman less. Just because, men are they're just better looking. You want them around more. Women are gross.
How dare you?
They have periods. Literally, why would I pay somebody who's bleeding on the job as much as a man?
I don't think you're being serious.
I'm glad I never have to have a workforce. I mean, what do you got? What do you got? One guy? You got a few people working for you.
Yeah, but they're guys.
All guys. Sexy guys too. No, you're a good-looking guy. Yeah.
Jamie's not bad looking.
Did you play sports? What'd you play?
I played in high school. I played basketball for 4 years.
Yeah.
Varsity for 3.
Yeah, you got a lot of pussy, I bet.
Yeah.
How old were you when you lost your virginity?
17.
That's a little slow on the uptick there.
Yeah, 17.
You want to choose wisely.
How old were you?
16?
Yeah.
15? Like almost 16, maybe?
Older woman, I bet.
No, I got molested by a girl when I was 13 and she was 21.
Yeah?
But nothing really happened. It was one of those weird ones. Like she was grabbing my dick, and I was all confused, and I made out with her, but I was like, "Oh, what are we doing here?"
No shit.
I was so confused.
Had you hit puberty yet?
I mean, I guess so. I was 13. When do you hit puberty?
I didn't hit it till I was
wasn't
like
beating
15.
off.
Yeah.
I wasn't beating off at the time. I actually had sex before I beat off.
No shit.
Yeah, that's
an
bizarre.
accomplishment.
Well, I didn't. Once I figured out beating off, though, I was like, oh, I'm a slave.
Yes.
Like, I'm a slave to getting rid of this cum.
Yep.
Like, oh, no. And then I realized, like, once I beat off, I was like, oh, well, I can do this myself. And then I'm not so fucking needy and weird. I remember the first time I was dating this girl, and the first time I beat off, and then I was like, I don't even want to call her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to hang out with her. Like, this is annoying.
Yeah.
Like, and I realized, like, oh, it wasn't so much that I was attracted to her. It was not that I wasn't attracted to her. It wasn't so much that I enjoyed being around her. It was I wanted to have sex with her. And then once the sex was taken out, once I get rid of the load, I was like, oh, I don't really want to be around her. This is just some biological trick.
Yeah.
Like, my body's tricking me into wanting to be near her and hang around with her.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, because teenage boys and girls have so little in common. All you care about is sports, laughing, trying to get fucked up. Well, you didn't really do that, but like we did. And then, and girls at that age are just extremely social beings. They're very much about their social circle and, you know, establishing who's in the group and who's, like, I'm just talking about my daughter is like this. And I think that they're much more like in line with what school is telling you to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they tend to do better in school because they're a little bit more linear and they're self-motivated more than boys. We're just distracted too much.
I think boys also have like a serious problem with authority.
Yeah.
And when teachers are telling you what to do, you automatically don't want to do it. That's just a natural inclination that people have.
Right.
The objects that you need for this quest are definitely nearby. Have a good look for them. Look high. Look low. Look medium.
Did you show me a
They're
picture of you
usually
fucking
hiding
carrying
in
an
plain
animal on your
sight.
back that you had killed?
I think that was a different one.
Yeah.
You can't carry an elk on your back.
No.
It's way too big. Yeah. An
So-
elk is like 1,000 pounds.
So you cut it up out in the wild?
Yeah.
And then you put it in coolers or something?
I did it at this ranch, and they have a bunch of guys that work at the ranch that just drag it into a pickup truck, and then you take it to like this cold storage area, and in the cold storage area they break it down.
Yeah.
But what you do is you just cut the quarters off, you cut the legs off, and you break it down just like a butcher shop does. It's really very it's very weird to see, man, because it becomes meat. Like, it starts off an animal, and then it becomes meat, as opposed to just seeing meat. Like, once it's down and it's, you know, you start breaking it down, it's like a sober reminder of what meat actually is.
Yeah.
Oof. One day they're gonna have that test tube meat that they're working on. You know that stuff they're doing?
Yeah.
One day they're gonna have that. That's gonna be like fully available, and there's gonna be no more.
Well,
meat
last night I was talking to the chef at the Laugh Factory, or the Comedy Store. You know, the cook back there, guy that just fucking smiles all the time.
Right.
If you want some good energy, man, just go back there and talk to that guy for a little while. And I'm like, so what'd you eat for Christmas? What'd you make? And he goes, I take the turkey, I cut it up, I put it in the blender with a little bit of oil, and I fucking chop it up, put it on sandwiches with some lettuce and some... I give it to my kids. I'm like, you blend fucking turkey meat? Oh yeah, man.
Wow.
I go, what else do you put in the blender? He goes, just a little bit of oil.
Maybe it's good. It sounds like a chicken salad type thing.
Right.
Chicken salad's good.
And that would keep after that. I mean, we have so much goddamn turkey meat in our fridge. We got turkey and ham meat because we did a couple of different dinners.
Do you do the deep fried turkey?
No, I hear
Dude,
that's the way to go.
It's the way to go.
You have a fryer?
Yeah, you get you can buy them where you stick the turkey, like these prongs stick into it, and then you just sort of lower it into this vat.
For like 20 minutes, right?
It's like there's a certain time per pound of bird, like
Right.
however big the bird is. But it's so good, dude, because
Yeah.
you cook it in peanut oil,
Uh-huh.
and it's just juicy and delicious and crispy on the outside. It's my all-time favorite way to get a turkey.
Yeah.
Yeah. But man, turkeys, all that factory farm shit is, as I get older, it's freaking me out more and more. It freaks me out. Like buying chickens in the store freaks me out.
Because of the way you know they were treated, or
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chickens that's the big one that freaks me out. Because there's something like chickens and pigs. Because there's something that we do with chickens where you can't really do with a cow. We stack them on top of each other. Just smush them all into these places where they can't even fucking move. They're just stuck there. And then they wait till they get to a certain size, and then they kill them. And it's like, oof. I mean, they're like it's like they're a human, or not human, a living organism that's a battery. It's like a power
and
supply.
as they're doing
to
it, they're
people.
pumping them full of chemicals that make them get fatter and
Is that
bigger.
true? I don't know. I know they definitely have used chemicals on the birds, I'm sure, but I don't know if they use them on them all the time. I think the thing that's going on with those birds is genetic selection.
Yeah.
Where they've just genetically made certain birds breed with certain birds. They've like established this gene, this genetic selection where they're just like super fucking plump and like ridiculously big breasts. And then they get those to do that in a very short period of time, and then they kill them.
And they can't walk because their chests are so big they fall over forward.
Yeah, it looks like what they did with bulldogs. Like, how the fuck did they make a bulldog out of a wolf?
Yeah.
How'd they do that? Who
That's
the
why
fuck
they.
did
That's
that?
why they can't fucking breathe.
Yeah, yeah, pugs. That used
so
to be a
sad.
wolf.
That's so sad.
That was a wolf.
And
somehow.
they made the face smaller because they wanted it to be cuter.
Yeah.
A cute dog is having a fucking asthma attack his entire life.
Dude, how strange is that?
Yeah, but the chickens, and I think the only criteria for the chicken pen is that the chicken has to be able to turn around in it. That's it. That's how big it has to be.
That's so crazy.
And they're getting shit on by all the chickens above it their whole life. Yeah, I know.
Is that really how it works? How many do they stack on top of each other?
12.
For real?
No, I don't know, but a lot. So,
she went crazy.
100.
Oh, Jesus. Imagine 100 floors of chickens.
And that noise, being around that
place.
Yeah.
But that's like taking an organism and using it as cells in a battery. It really is. It's like you're taking like these chickens and you're literally compartmentalizing them into a specific size, like a cell. And the mitochondria of the cell is this chicken.
Yeah.
And you've got hundreds and hundreds of them stacked into this place.
Yeah.
And they're like these living organisms that you've got locked into these clearly defined spaces, and you're extracting energy from those chickens. You're extracting food from them.
Yeah, they're just protein. They're protein bars.
Yeah, I mean, it is fucking bizarre. It's a bizarre practice.
Wow. Even when they're not in cages, they have them so smushed together, they can't even fucking move.
Yeah, it's not fun. They're not having a good time. But it's not the only way to raise chickens. That's the problem. I had this guy Joel Salatin on the podcast a while back. Really, really interesting guy. And he runs, I think his farm's called Polyface Farm. But he's got these things that he does with these chickens where he puts them in these giant like chicken houses that are on wheels, and he'll like roll them into an area, and then you just let them out, and then they run around. At the end of the day, they go right back in, because that's what they do. They go into their nests again, and then you roll them down a hill to another place. And then he has these pigs. He takes pigs and he puts a fence around the pigs, a movable fence, and the pigs just stay inside that fence and eat whatever the fuck they want, and then the next day they move the fence, and they keep doing it. So he's got these animals like that. Those chickens, they're living like fucking chickens.
Yeah,
they don't
they're
freak
enjoying
out.
life.
They don't freak out when he comes near them. And this guy is like the prime example of what you would think of as an intelligent take on ethical farming practices. Because that's
I think when Purdue and a lot of these houses buy from you, you have to use their cages and their feed and their it's a franchise like McDonald's. Like when you raise livestock for a lot of these, agro, these, what do you call it, big agro, It's specific. They want it done a certain way, and if you don't, they don't buy from you.
Oh,
It's
wow.
very hard to be independent like that.
So, that's interesting. So, like, if you're a poultry grower, you like, if you want to work for Purdue, you like grow chickens for them. You don't think they grow their own chickens? How does that work?
No, I think you get a contract with them, and they come in and buy your stuff, but it's all got to be done. As is Tyson.
Contract poultry farmer. Read that out there, Gregory. Tyson Foods is one of the leading supporters of American agriculture, paying more than $15 billion annually to independent farmers who supply us with cattle, hogs, and chickens. We depend on more than 11,000 independent farmers across the country. This includes more than 4,000 poultry farmers who contact us to raise chickens.
No,
Wow.
that's their website. It's all done with a lot of leverage, and you have to do things exactly the way they want you to. I think it was it Food Inc. or something that did a documentary about it.
I was watching this documentary today that was on Dig. I found it. It was about this guy who was like this super badass sushi chef in Japan, like the best sushi chef in Tokyo right now, I guess they were saying. And it's really interesting, like watching this guy acquire the fish and how he talks about how he ages the fish. Like, I didn't know that. Did you know that when they catch tuna, they'll often age them for 5 days?
No shit.
And then they age them a lot of times at the fish market before he takes it, or he takes it back and he'll age it another 5 days more.
Huh.
So they might keep shit for like 2 weeks before you eat it to make it more tender. Like,
Wow.
he's doing that with tuna. Yeah, I was watching this and I was like, wow. This is, when Jamie and I were talking about it, we were like, what are they going to do when they kill all the fish? Like, how long does it take to grow a fucking tuna that big? This guy has his tuna, right? And they're sawing it with a giant Paul Bunyan saw. I mean, it's a fucking huge tuna. The video is really cool. And the people who made the video were like obvious, like serious sushi dorks. So they're like super amped up to be getting some sushi from this dude. But all I could think of was like, how many fish are there? Like, how many days can we do that? Like, every day. Sucking them out of the ocean. Every day. Every day.
And there used to be areas where they restricted how much fishing went on, and now it's like, it's a free-for-all.
Well, under Donald Trump, we're going to fix all this.
Thank God.
These fucking things, this is a Jumbo spray. I took 10 hits of this before, maybe 12, I forget, before a Sam Harris podcast. I was skiing downhill.
Yeah.
Straight I wasn't crashing, but I was figuring out how to barely stay up the entire conversation. I'm like, what in the fuck have I done? Like, I was so high. It was probably as high as I've ever been in my life.
Was that the last Sam Harris podcast?
Yeah.
The long one. Yeah,
But
it was a
Sam
good
is a
one.
perfect guy to be that baked with, because all you have to do is just wind him up and say something, and he's so eloquent that he can just continue to go on these amazing. As long as you can just keep up with what he's saying, so you have like good questions.
He is, but that's all due respect to Sam, and I do think he is smarter than me in terms of IQ, but I do think he uses that intelligence to kind of shuck and jive you a little bit.
Shuck and jive, how so?
Well, I'm not like. I mean, he's so smart and so articulate,
Right.
Obviously, and I have mad respect for him, but I just don't think he's right.
About what?
Well, let's take Islam for example. I mean, there's just so many things, but I mean, Islam and sort of like the right to sort of like prepare for violence and kind of self-defense. I don't really agree with that philosophy, and I don't agree with it because I think it just invites the consciousness into your head to where you are going to have to use it.
That's interesting. Like the idea that self-defense and preparing for something sets up the stage to make something happen.
Different than, say, getting in the octagon, that MMA stuff. And,
well, that's more a competition.
Yeah.
But you think like maybe a guy walks around with like a gun and a knife and bulletproof vest.
I think it invites the consciousness into the atmosphere and creates the energetic cycle of having to use that. And then Sam kind of throws out the statistics that, well, it's about the same odds as having a car crash as you are going to experience some where you will need to learn how to do something self-defend yourself. And I don't. Maybe you can throw out that math to me, and I think it depends on certain socioeconomic conditions, but I just don't think that's true. I just don't want that consciousness in my life, and I don't think we should dissolve.
Well, I certainly think you're free to not have those thoughts in your head and to choose to take the path of love and acceptance and just passivity and move through this life. But the reality of human beings is, like, I've been, unfortunately, watching some videos online. I watched this video today of a guy kicking some lady down the stairs for no reason. He was behind her, and then they're looking out for her. They're trying to find him in the UK. They've got photos of him. But she was walking in front of him down the stairs, and he walked up behind her and just a random person kicked her down this flight of stairs, just horribly injured. And I've seen a bunch of those. And things do happen. You can run into the wrong people.
Yes, they do. They do. I do. Meet Steven Pinker.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You know, we are, and yes, those things happen, and look around the world today and flip on the news, and it's highly disturbing. But we are living in the most peaceful time.
Amazing time.
Of our existence. You know, if you were a 30-year-old man in the year 1500, the highest cause of death was not disease or infection. It was an act of violence.
Right.
You were going to be raping and pillaging, and you just had to defend your food supply, for crying out loud. And we have come to some kind of understanding, some kind of collective consciousness that has morphed itself together in the form of cooperation. We have to and there's so many of us now, and it's getting more of us. The planet's getting smaller. We have to cooperate.
I agree with you, but what do you do with those guys that kick women down flights of stairs like that?
I guess there is some sort of form of, I guess punishment, and we do have we live in a society where law and order is maybe a necessary evil, and I'm sure there's some kind of like incarceration, but ultimately, you gotta love them. You gotta have compassion for them. You've got to just teach them with compassion that their action is wrong. Don't kick a lady down the stairs, man. Here's why you shouldn't do that, and I love you, and it's gonna be okay.
People right now are up in arms. They want to kick your ass.
That's cool.
There's a bunch of people right now in Nebraska. They're like, this fucking hippie.
Fucking
fucking Larry's kid, this pussy. Kick his ass. Kick his ass, Seabass.
But, and I'm a different,
It's a beautiful thought. It is.
It's gone.
There's some people that you can run into, though, unfortunately. You're better off. It's like that expression about having a gun. You're better off having it and not needing it than needing it and not having it.
Yeah, I don't.
So
I get it, and I understand the argument.
Do you know that about that guy who was it in, I think it was in Minnesota. He was running around stabbing people, and then some guy who was a concealed carry permit holder pulled out his gun, shot the guy, and killed him. And it was one of those things that people point to, like, hey, this guy was a competition shooter, concealed carry permit, and he saved people's lives because this guy was killing a bunch of people.
Yeah, but those case studies compared to the case studies that go wrong, I don't know what they are. I don't have the metrics, but I bet they're, 10 to 1, 20 to 1?
Sure,
more?
Because it's way easier to get a gun, just to go and get a gun, than it is to become a competitive shooter. Like, what that guy was the rarest of the rare. Someone who's not just competent with a firearm, but an expert level. Here he is, man who shot Crossroads Mall terrorists, USPSA competitor, 3-gun shooter. Yeah, so this guy is just a badass gun carrier.
And that's fine, but that is the rarest exception.
Right.
I'm positive.
Right, but it is real, right?
Sure.
So
It's real.
It can happen. So he was right. So his thought was, one day, if I am carrying a gun, I'll be able to save people's lives.
That's fine. And
protect myself.
Okay, I get that. But the hundreds of others that go along that are just somehow there's so many loopholes in the system of crazy people who get guns and go to Sandy Hook, and it's
that's a terrible example.
But it's not worth it.
And those are illegally acquired guns.
Yes.
That's a gun that was acquired by a person who was mentally ill and his parents didn't protect the guns. Yeah, that's a different story, but yeah, you're right.
I just think that the risk versus reward is it's just far too unbalanced.
Well, it's definitely the ability to just shoot someone and kill someone by pulling that little tiny muscle on your finger is kind of crazy. I mean, it's the amount of power that you have in doing so.
It's a glitch in the matrix. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate using matrix analogies, but it is. It's a glitch in the matrix, man, and it plays into kind of every fallacy of the human condition, you know. And it's like, why? How did we let that happen? How did we make it so easy to take someone else's life?
So what do you, if I make Zach Leary the president of the United States, does Zach Leary say no more military? Does Zach Leary say police officers can't have guns? We all need love. Everybody gets their guns taken away. Like,
Well,
how do you deal with everything?
Yeah, I mean, and it's not something that you can just
do.
You know, it's not something you can just do overnight. I'm not, naive enough or, stoned enough or meditate enough to think that is.
Maybe we should get high. Maybe we rethink it. Think about it in a different way.
And there are already 300 guns in America.
I think there's more. I think there are more guns in America than there are human beings. And here's what's crazy. It's not like we're like, well, we're good. No, we're fucking making guns like crazy. People are, as we're sitting here, they're chunk, 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 chunk. Machines are churning out guns.
But yes, if Zach Leary becomes president, I know it's highly unpopular and people will get pissed at me, but we stop the sale of all unless you have very specific kind of UK-style hunting exceptions. And outside of food, just what, the economic factors for how convenience equals pleasure equals like an economic value that is usually low, how that has all sort of worked together to kind of create this system that we're living in now. And we have this, again, this plausible deniability kind of hardwired thing to ignore it.
Yeah.
Like Walmart's a great example. I mean, the sort of this disenfranchised middle of the country, and they did lose their jobs in that area of the country is decimated, but they all shop at Walmart, and that's
part of what the problem
part of what the problem is. But it's cheap, it's convenient, you're still going, and it's like, well, what's it going to be? Pick a horse.
What's interesting is that this is all really recent, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is all from the Industrial Revolution on. This is all this last couple of hundred years of civilization where we've sort of entered into this wage existence, where people are living this way and buying this horrible fucking factory-produced food.
And even more recent, I mean, yes, it all can be traced back to post-industrial revolution stuff, but even just like the massive hyper-consumerism, that's only like really taken off since the mid-90s.
Yeah.
There's a cool little movie out called The Minimalists. I mean, after a while, it kind of, I got it and I didn't finish the whole thing, but the first hour is fascinating. It's about these guys that wrote a book called The Minimalists, and about, they were all kind of corporate ladder, kind of American successful guys, and just consuming, buying shit. Then all of a sudden they just kind of had the kind of big, kind of cliched awakening, like, oh my God, maybe I don't need all this shit. But the data that they present from what's happened in the mid-90s on, sort of as a result of the internet boom with instant gratification, one-click shopping, and disassociation of just the accumulation of stuff. And we live in bigger houses now than we've ever lived, square footage wise. They've never been so big before. And yet, they put all these heat maps on, they did this study where they put heat maps on these homes to see where people were living in the homes, hanging out, and like the average family in like their huge kind of McMansion or something only uses like 40% of the house.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And also has a self-storage unit to go with it somewhere else. It's just this endless kind of relationship we have with it. So
I watched Hoarders the other night.
Oh.
And there was some dude who bought 2 houses next to his house because he had so much shit that he had to move the shit to other houses. It was fucking crazy.
Hoarders is gnarly.
But this is a weird hoarder because it was a guy who had some money.
Yeah, he bought 2 houses.
Yeah,
right.
It wasn't like a hoarder like some poor person that was going to yard sales and buying used clothes and then putting them in bags in their house and stacking them up the ceiling with newspapers and stuff. This was a guy who had all these collectibles. And he was a neurosurgeon, which is really interesting. Yeah, he lives in Vegas, and he wanted to be known for his collection. He had crazy stuff, like he had.
What's he into?
He had a lot of space memorabilia. Like he had a scale model of one of the Challengers, or one of the space shuttles rather. He had one of the test lunar modules that Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong apparently had used in testing and in preparation for the Apollo missions. And he had a bunch of crazy shit all over his house. But he had 3 houses filled with this stuff, the courtyards, and all around his pool was stacked up with shit.
Oh, man. Yeah. That's so insane. It's just, you know, escapism. This need to sort of like pacify our existence here. I just, you know, as we kind of evolve and kind of grow into the future, it just seems like so few people can truly be comfortable in their own skin and just be present and be comfortable and contentness.
Yeah.
Like we're constantly inventing new ways to escape, to disassociate, to get out of the moment.
What do you think that is? What do you think is so compelling to us about the constant accumulation of material possessions and this whole greed is good sort of mentality and moving up the corporate ladder without any sort of appreciation or acceptance in the fact that we're these finite life forms clinging to a spinning orb hurling through infinity? All those inevitable and inescapable realities, I mean, we look at them every day. You look up, I mean, that is undeniable that you are looking up as you leave your house and get to your car. You have infinity above your head.
Yes, you do.
And you don't look at it. I mean, what's going on with us?
I think we're born, this thing that we've kind of created, this construct that we call society. We're automatically born into a bad hand. And I think it's completely bogus. You're dealt a bad hand at birth. It doesn't even matter if you're born into privilege. I mean, sure, that's great if you're born into privilege versus the slums of Mumbai.
That's definitely better.
Yeah, that's definitely better. Of course, I'm not going to.
If you're balling in Beverly Hills.
I'm not.
That's way better than Liberia.
Yeah, I mean, or Syria.
Yeah, Bentley convertible, dude, you're doing way better than someone in Zaire with no feet.
No question. But like, you know, you're dealt this bad hand of like, you know, being alive is hard.
Right.
You know, you're born. You're going to go into this building from ages what? When do you go to school? Ages 4. Is that about right?
Some people go to preschool at 4. Kindergarten is 5. First grade 6.
From 4 to 18, you're going to go into this big cement building to be taught these certain subjects in a certain order. And you're going to leave that cement building, go into another one that's even more expensive. And then you're going to leave that. You're going to get some kind of employment thing which exists pretty much from 9 to 5 for most people, unless you're fortunate or clever enough to kind of exist outside of that framework and create your own reality. But most people are going to work some kind of structured life. And I think it's hard. I think it's just hard to be alive.
It definitely is. Well, it's not harder than it's ever been. It's easier than it's ever been, right? I mean, it's more safe than it's ever been. It's safer, more access to information than ever before.
Yes, but you know why I think it is in some aspects it's harder? Because, well, I don't know if that's true, because back in the olden times you did have to kind of compete against each other for survival, but I think it could be argued that it's harder because this constant sort of, you know, onslaught of media and comparing ourselves to each other, and to feel insecure if you don't look like that, if you don't look like this, if you don't have that, something's wrong with you if you can't afford to buy that. You're not doing well. You're fucking up, man, if you can't afford to buy that. Or if you don't look like that, oh my God, I'm sorry. Nobody's ever going to fuck you. That's really sad.
No. And I think as marijuana... There it is. Jesus. It's a big boy.
He looks like Gabriel... Or if you just don't have access, like North Korea, then you just have no fucking clue what's
Did you see what they were making them do in North Korea? What Kim Jong-un was making them do on Christmas?
No.
He makes people worship the mother of the revolution, his grandmother, who was the wife of the first dictator of North Korea, she died of mysterious causes in like 1949. And so, like, he is so anti-Christmas, this guy. He literally is like, he's like a character in a Dr. Seuss movie. Like, he's so anti-Christmas, he's like the Grinch.
So they have to celebrate his dead.
They have to celebrate his grandmother, like the mother of the revolution.
You know, the
fool's crazy.
The U.S. made 8